Radio Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us too in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Women.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
Email any of our shows anytime into the Equitable Bank inbox. At Equitable, we take banking personally. For me, John at 1620thezone.com. The Equitable Bank inbox from 1620 The Zone.
The world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is available right at your fingertips in Iowa. The Circus Sports Iowa app is sports betting the way it should be. Bet anywhere in Iowa and experience high betting limits, tight money line splits, and exceptional customer service. Download your new bookie today. Visit circusports.com and start betting like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
Husker Preview Friday is powered by McKinnis Roofing and Sheet Metal. Looking for trusted experts to protect and enhance your home or business? We are McKinnis, Nebraska and Iowa's go-to choice since 1981. For commercial or residential projects, trust McKinnis Roofing and Sheet Metal. Visit McKinnisInc.com today.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
1620 The Zone. Back to 1620 The Zone's Red Out Week. Presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people.
But you know, we have everything we need. You know, all our guns are loaded and ready to fire. So whatever it takes to win on Saturday is going to happen.
I'd rather lose the first game than the last game. So we're not going to ease into it. We're going to play. Dylan's going to play. He's going to play the plays, right? He's going to, when we call drop back, he's going to go back there, take his drop, go through his progression. Just how we want him to play when he's a junior. We're going to start day one that way. We're not easing into anything. So that's why I'm not easing into it. You know, I'm not going to just sit there and say, hey, Dylan, hand the ball off 42 times. Don't throw it. Oh, hey, go win the game for us. You know, I'd rather coach the mistakes now. And if there are mistakes, coach the mistakes. And then when the time comes, you know, he's prepared for those big moments. I'd rather lose the first game than the last game. So we're not going to ease into it. We're going to play. Dylan's going to play. He's going to play the plays, right? He's going to, when we call drop back, he's going to go back there, take his drop, go through his progression. Just how we want him to play when he's a junior. We're going to start day one that way. We're not easing into anything.
From a style of play standpoint, what can fans expect out of your team on Saturday?
I think they're going to have to come and see it, you know. I think they're going to have to come and watch. You know, I don't want to give away too much, but, I mean, we're going to kind of play the way we play. We like to run it and throw it, you know, not just run it. But we still want to run the football. You know, I mean, the key tenets of football are what they're supposed to be. But, you know, I think the biggest thing for me is we want to play complementary football, right? We want to, you know, we want to win the turnover battle. We want to be physical. We want to have a culture of execution where, you know, and when I say execution, it's not jumping up and making the one-handed catch. That's the last phase of execution. We want to align and assign properly. We want to play, with great energy and dominant contact. And when the chance comes, we want to go make a play. So I think we have a lot of good players on our team. Right now we talk about a couple of them, right? Because some of them have not yet established themselves out there. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities.
If you could give a message to Husker Nation fans about what they can expect from you and this team, or what they're going to bring to the table, what would that be?
Buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
This is just where I'm at. This is how I feel. It's a good thing.
All right, good morning, everybody. We have reached the end of the Yellow Brick Road, or if you want to say the end of talking season, the most anticipated season around here in a while. Begins in, let me do the math, 32 hours. Is that right? All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Football Friday Fiesta. It is the first official Football Friday Fiesta of the season. We are glad to have you in. We have lots of discussion, lots of great guests ahead of Nebraska UTEP. And a quick reminder that last night, you live by them, you die by them. Now, it's your choice to figure out who I am talking about, whether it be coaches, kickers, or your fandom for Colorado football.
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you, you're going to have to stop me here today because after watching, and last night, just another banger, reminds us how great this sport is, how we love this sport. You're going to have to stop me and remind me that you take one game at a time, because I would like really not to talk about UTEP today, because we've talked ourselves out of UTEP, other than they've named their starting quarterback, Skylar Locklear. I would like to talk about the Nebraska-Colorado game next Saturday night.
Yes.
I know we're going to have all week next week to do that, but after watching that thing last night in Boulder, I would like to talk about Colorado nonstop between now and next Saturday night.
48-17.
So you're going to have to stop me here, that we got to take one game at a time. You don't overlook any opponent.
Yep.
You respect everybody with the utmost respect.
Stop, Gary. Throw some respect on the Miners. We got games tomorrow. Then we'll get there. Then at, 5:30, 6 o'clock tomorrow, we can shift focus. It can start tomorrow night.
All right. Yesterday was a banger of football. We got lots to discuss, whether it be what happened in Boulder, because there is plenty there. But I think I would like to start with a little premature firework launching.
Okay. Premature firework launching.
Yes, which is probably the thing I will remember most about last night's North Carolina-Minnesota game.
Oh. I would have went with the Max Johnson injury, but okay.
Whoa, not
that was rough.
So did you saw the end of the game?
Yeah,
where they set up the fireworks before
the field goal.
So
yes.
premature firework launching.
Yeah.
Minnesota loses last night. What watching?
Well, they ended up losing. That's
watching last night. So I was looking at it through the lens of like, okay, week number one, what could Nebraska learn? One, from the Colorado game, I would learn that today I'd be on the phone with whatever conference is supplying the officials, maybe the Big 12, next Saturday night. And I would say, there's a guy that wears number 12. Now, he's a hell of a player.
He's a player.
But he's Mr. Push-Off guy, okay? So maybe an OPI here or there.
Or 6.
The other that I'm watching is the importance of kickers. You live by them, you die by them. Last year on opening night, Minnesota lived by their kicker. Last night, they died by their kicker, who is usually pretty reliable, and Minnesota loses to North Carolina in a game that I don't think they had any business losing that football game, as ugly as it was. They still had plenty of opportunities to win that game. But also, how much in the opening week of the season coaching matters. Like all of these little decisions and details that you miss out on that come to roost in the opening game, like PJ Fleck and his staff, like they were like just the small details. I also have learned a new thing about watching football last night. We need more hash awareness. I think that's a very underrated quality if you have hash awareness.
Always do enjoy a good hash.
You know, people like in the 70s were like, hell yeah. In 2024, I think hash awareness needs to be more of a thing.
I think there needs to be an entire hour spent on something like that too, because you don't even hear that in high school football at all. Hash awareness. I like this. This could be a class.
So I mean, that was a real thing in that game, right?
In the North Carolina Minnesota game, yeah. As far as getting to the hash on the field goal and where to set it up and all that stuff.
Yeah, they went to the wrong. They ran right. Mm-hmm. Why were they running right?
Not knowing your kicker.
Hash awareness is a big deal.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that usually a conversation that is going on when you're trying to set up for either a game winner, game time, field goal? That you have that communication as well with your coaching staff. You're saying,
I would think it was bizarre.
Where would you like us to kick from? Give me the middle, give me left, give me right. You're having that conversation. So why aren't you not doing that?
There's also, and in that game, because North Carolina is not void of this, is back to the Colorado North Dakota State game, is coaches in late game decisions. You know, we were on the roundtable yesterday, and I've been preaching this of year number 2, Rule and his staff got to be better in-game, management of things. But, man, I would love to get into the head of coaches, like when it comes down to late-game decisions, because I thought Fleck, man, some of the things he was doing, and then Colorado, which it didn't come back to bite them, but Colorado's decision to pad some stats at the end of the game.
Yeah. Throw the ball.
You know, if North Dakota State gets the benefit of a clear targeting call,
the targeting
and
on
the clock not running ahead.
Yes.
I mean, that's a difference in that game. So last night was like, okay, I'm glad we don't play on a Thursday. We play on Saturday. I can watch games. I'm like, okay, got a reminder of, hey, if my kicker wants to be on the left hash or the right hash, all of that kind of stuff. Sport is so friggin' good. It is such a great sport.
And that was the thing. Like, I know last night, and we talked about this yesterday, of what would the mindset be with a lot of people, especially Nebraska, watching that North Dakota State Colorado game. And what I gathered even throughout the day is that a lot of people were pulling for North Dakota State, if for nothing more than I think the comical element that if Deion Sanders had to go out and explain losing to an FCS team. And we talked about this a lot throughout the week, that if this game was close and there was a chance there in the fourth quarter that North Dakota State is either driving for a game winner or having a chance to extend the game, that even if you were in the mindset that you've talked about a lot of, you want Colorado to be 1-0 for that game, that you would quickly shift your mindset into, God, this could be pretty funny. And you can't help but to think when you're seeing seconds roll off, no, what the hell? What the hell's going on there? Or the not 1, not 2, but 3 that you could find push-offs from the aforementioned Travis Hunter. But also, yes, the targeting. That it was funny. It was almost as if they wanted to discuss it during the broadcast, and then they just didn't bring a lot of attention. Because remember the previous drive, they did talk about, was that targeting on North Dakota State on Shedeur Sanders? They got into that one, but they didn't on that drive.
Jackie Childs of ESPN, they're fearful. They're fearful of Deion Sanders.
Yes.
Okay? ESPN is fearful of the pushback. But you know what? If you want credit, you got to have the scrutiny. Okay? And when you are a program, aren't we supposed to talk about UTEP? You're supposed to stop me here.
Well, no, this is reaction from last night. That's fine.
They're in Mountain
Time. This is reaction from last night. So that's fine.
They're 1-0. They're 1-0, and thank you. And if Nebraska takes care of business tomorrow, 2 teams are 1-0. And watching that game last night, if you're watching it from the Nebraska perspective, and you see Colorado, and there are 2 things that are absolutely the truth about Colorado football. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are dudes.
Yeah.
Okay, they are big-time players. They are 2 of the best players in all of college football. Okay? One is Travis Hunter pushing off whatever. He's an amazing player. The other can make throws, takes hits.
Yep.
I don't know why he would reward his offensive line for anything, but then he's also a faker. Okay? He faked an injury in the game last night. That program, which you can't stop watching. Remember, I'm supposed to be done after next week. I've been done with Colorado. Nebraska didn't play, and we're on to other things.
Watch.
I know. And you know what? And I thought about that during the game as the disaster was averted, is you can't quit Colorado because there's so damn drama. You know why?
It's good for
you know why there is drama there? Because they are all bling, no bang. All bling, no bang Buffaloes are now going to come to Memorial Stadium next Saturday night. And I know that watching that game, because I go watch my timeline and texts that were going back and forth, I think Nebraska, from the Nebraska fan perspective, people got more riled up for that game next Saturday after watching Colorado and that circus.
Yeah.
That circus that was going on. But I wanted Colorado to win. There was a brief little part of me that when North Dakota State was like, oh, we're playing a team that is super undisciplined.
Yep.
And you know what? Dad's coaching his kids, and it looks like they just showed up, to play today. Mm-hmm. We got a chance to beat them. And I'm like, okay. And then Cole Payton's in the game. I'm like, go West Side.
I'm actually surprised.
Charmar Brown from Prep. I'm like, okay, here we go. Nebraska guys are going to help beat Colorado before Nebraska beats Colorado next Saturday night. And then I was like, no. I want Colorado to be 1-0.
Okay. The anger part of it, I think, actually, that game, the way it played out, and this wasn't just Nebraska fans chiming in. This was a lot of college football fans chiming in last night of the things that Colorado either got away with. Look, that's going to happen, and I'm glad we're mentioning Travis Hunter from the standpoint of, again, played over 100 plays last night. Without question, the guy he's a matchup problem. He is a hell of a player, both defensively and offensively. He's everywhere. And you watch that guy, and this is why we always talk about, you've got two legitimate Sunday dudes in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And that played out last night. There are times that Shedeur Sanders looked like he was going to get dropped, and then the touchdown pass to Horn. I mean, the ball just comes out just like that. But you look at how North Dakota State should add an extra possession. Not a possession, but extra play. I don't think that's even debatable. There was a clear targeting that was missed. And it's easy to look at that, look at what North Dakota State was doing in that drive, and really how they hung the entire time, where, to me, it wasn't even those missed opportunities. It was, if you listened and watched any of Colorado's postgame, I would have been a little concerned with the way my team played. I would not be, talking about how, oh yeah, I'm going to sleep great tonight. And I get it, trying to paint some respect on North Dakota State, but there are a lot of things that I would walk away from that and be like, okay, let's take our win and let's move on. But this goes back to what we know about Colorado, what we know about Prime, is they can't help themselves when it comes to the way that they portray that. And this also goes back to the broadcast. So, by the way, the North Dakota State throughout the first half of that game, when they would have good drives going, a lot of it was about Colorado's alignment. Mark Jones was talking a lot about what Colorado wasn't doing and not a lot on North Dakota State. He could not wait to get that first touchdown with Travis Hunter. And, again, a little bit of a cushion there, and that was just a mismatch to begin with. But you've mentioned this about when we knew Mark Jones was doing the game.
So he does the Sacramento Kings on TV. So
you're well versed.
I've not only gotten all of his ESPN. And I call him the Jackie Childs because of obscure references.
Yeah.
Now, I do give him a hat tip because he mentioned somebody that I'm guessing last night. He had a reference on a touchdown that I'm guessing anybody over the age of 25 had no idea what he was talking about. But he has some obscure references. He's different. I thought last night there's a part of people are fearful of Colorado and Deion Sanders. Okay. And they won't talk about reality. Okay. They won't talk about the truth because there's so much fear, whether you don't want to make them mad. And when you're doing the broadcast, or the guy that's running the program lives in fear of the reality of that. He's a better GM than he is a coach, and he's not really a coach. It's just a program that goes out there and plays because they're required by the NCAA and in the University of Colorado to have a football team. Sorry about that little bit of rant.
No, that's fine.
But I call Mark Jones the Jackie Childs because he will have some really, really obscure references, and he did go with, I have to give him credit. All right, part of the Beam team. He went with the boss man reference last night on one of the touchdowns.
Well, he did the first one with Travis Hunter was the pocket full of cheese, fresh like Febreze.
And fresher than Febreze.
I'm sorry, fresher than Febreze.
That's a lyric from a boss man as a rapper.
Yes. And
who, by the way, got arrested by the feds earlier this month.
Oh, I think you were like last night. No. That would have been really bad timing.
Never heard of this guy. So I thought
well, yeah, like if you have to be under the age of 25 to go.
Did he just
say boss man? I thought wrestling.
Marge, what'd he say? I saw it was a touchdown.
But
mute the damn TV.
So there was the hype there, and it just like we saw last year too. Mark Jones was very excited to be doing a Colorado game. But I go back to the targeting when they slow it down, the one that wasn't called. Well, again, there was two that legitimately could be called. Be fair that they missed one on Shedeur Sanders, at least one that they could have reviewed. That it seemed like Roddy Jones wanted to go there. And I don't know if anybody noticed this as they were slowing it down. I guarantee you, if you could look into the booth right there, they were probably looking at each other going, and I don't know if someone got in there, but like, don't draw attention to it, because it didn't get discussed until afterwards, not by them, but afterwards. But then the other part about the 50-yard heave of basically complaining that the ball doesn't get there and talking about how, well, you got to let that play get there. And it's like, bud, that you saw what was happening with that play. You saw the duress he was under. You saw the type of throw he had to try to make. So again, it was slanted Colorado, but even as North Dakota State was putting the fear of God into Colorado there at the end, you wouldn't know it. Like the tone of the broadcast, you just wouldn't know it.
Because it's an infomercial for Colorado.
Yeah, it was like you were waiting for the clock to hit zero with Colorado leading, whether it be by 1 or 40, so you could begin the Colorado party.
If I was hosting Buff Overreaction last night with Sean Keeler, you know what? you know what? One of the first things. Well, there's a couple of things here that I would have brought up. One, and you're doing Big Red Overreaction.
Yeah.
And this is week number 1. Quirky things happen. Mm-hmm. All right. Look at North Carolina State last night. I don't know what they were doing for the first 3 quarters. But then they found a way to pull away from Western Carolina. That would have been a monumental upset in that game, especially when you looked at the line. I mean, that line was sky high. But for the most part, in the FBS versus FCS games, I think there were no upsets. But the only game that was below double digits was that game in Boulder last night. But if I'm hosting that show and I'm going through the lens of what I saw last year in 2023 Colorado and what I'm watching in game number 1, mm-hmm. And Colorado wants the credit, but they don't want the scrutiny.
Right.
Okay, that's not how this works.
Yep.
If you are going to be a blowhard, you better blow me and blow me good, and then I'll give you credit. Say. But if you have a bad blow, I'm going to get on you. Okay, I'm going to go at you.
Still a W.
So if I watch, and I would hope you and Connor would do this tomorrow on Big Red Reaction, because I think this is a key thing to look at another coach who's now in game 1 of year number 2. If you have the same issues that you had last year in game number 1, I question what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's Colorado. I hope you would do the same thing, both sides, when we look at Nebraska tomorrow. The same issues that plagued Nebraska last year. If they exist tomorrow against UTEP, man, but if they don't, and they've been cleaned up regardless of opponent, then they also deserve praise.
Yep.
And that's what I saw last night in the Colorado team. They've got 2 of the best players by far in college football. Now, I think there are certain areas with their personnel where they are better. But the issues, being undisciplined,
mm-hmm.
the decision-making, that kind of stuff, that is the same as last year. And if I'm a Colorado fan, when I turn into Buff Overreaction with Gary Sharp and Sean Keeler, and my first word out of my mouth is, Colorado fans, give us a call. Who would you like to be your head coach in 2025? I wonder what your reaction is.
Oh, I would listen to that and love every
And I wouldn't be
it.
like, just, hey, that's some clickbait callers. Good job, Gary. No, that's the reality is, I think if you're a Colorado fan, enjoy the rest of this year, because there's no way you can exist as a serious football program with Deion Sanders as your head coach.
Perfect example of that. And this was part of what I was watching in the post game and this is where he got into very happy with the offense, very happy. He's going to sleep very well at night, knowing what they were able to do. That, Shedeur, who was as efficient as all can be, throws for, just south of 500 yards. The fact that you still, to your point about things that they didn't do well last year, and being able to run the football, being able to stop the run as well, getting gashed on big plays in the run, quarterback read, a lot of those things. I mean, we talked about
any quarterback outside of the pocket last night was an issue for them.
Yes, it was. It absolutely.
Keep that on the table for next week.
Well, and watch because you're thinking about Cam Miller, who, okay, the guy's athletic, but the amount, like you and I could have ran through once that pocket got out, especially there in that last drive. And I get it. You're in a little bit of a defensive adjustment there and trying to keep, nothing, use the old baseball reference, no doubles. But those lanes were there in the first half too. Yeah. And so you're not stopping the run very well. And to North Dakota State's credit, I mean, they played to their strength of really trying to work the line of scrimmage. But I thought, again, that line of scrimmage defensively for Colorado was supposed to be a lot improved. There were many times this offensive line was getting the better of them, but also that inability to run the football. It combined just 60 yards, and Dallin Hayden's supposed to be a pretty good dude.
Yeah, well, they completely abandoned the run.
Yeah, they did. And that can work against certain teams. Well, you would watch the Travis Hunter, the first Travis Hunter touchdown, for instance, is a perfect example of what you're not going to see typically week in and week out, where you have that type of cushion, but the way that the safety comes down and helps in a cover two when you got one of the most electric players in college football in space like that. North Dakota doesn't see that on a weekly basis, but I don't think Colorado's also going to see that type of coverage or that type of mismatch there. So those things right there, sure, you're happy you took advantage of it if you're Colorado, but going back to how it's portrayed after the game, of somebody was curious about the lack of running game. Instead, it was spun into I don't know what you're talking about, because, we had over 500 yards of total offense.
That's called fear of not dealing with reality.
Yeah, I'm going to sleep really well knowing that we almost threw for 500 yards. And yeah, I'm good. I don't know what you're seeing. And again, that is that question, or even bringing it up. I don't even know if it's a question like, hey, how'd you feel about your running game? Of just saying, would you like to have ran more or more effectively? That's a legitimate football question, somewhere in the realm of just natural curiosity to somewhat critical. And you see how it gets spun.
There's a lot more from last night, because it was having a discussion about the ending and just the way that game played out. And then, oh, by the way, what's going on in the Minnesota-North Carolina game that ends with a missed game-winning field goal for Minnesota? Strange game up in the Twin Cities. When they announced before the game that Darius Taylor was not going to play, I thought, ooh, that's not good. I don't know how good North Carolina is, but I think that's a bad loss for Minnesota. You were talking yesterday, there's not a lot of wins to go get on their schedule. Right. And you had that game where your offense didn't play well, especially in the passing game. Mm-hmm. And it just never seemed like your quarterback and the OC and the play calling were in sync throughout the entire game. I think that's a missed opportunity, and that's a bad loss for Minnesota. But it also reminded me last night about one thing about playing on Thursday. And Jimmy is just back from a game down in Kansas City where you guys had a lot of trouble with Lindenwood. Nice job.
They have to run.
Great helmet.
So if I'm someday going to be an athletic director, and for the record, no one has reached out to me to see what my interest would be in an athletic director. I don't think I have the credentials.
I'd work on your staff.
You have to have a master's to be an athletic director?
Probably, yeah.
Nah, you just gotta know somebody.
There ain't a chance in hell I'm ever going back to school. I play school on the radio.
You're like John Bullock.
Finally, somebody who sounds just like me.
But if I was an athletic director, there'd be two things. One, I'm never playing in Ireland, and I'm going to be opposed to playing on a Thursday night unless I have a layup game. Last year on this morning, after Nebraska-Minnesota, after Minnesota made kind of a similar field goal last year to win the game, last night they miss to lose to North Carolina. It ruins your whole weekend.
Oh, God, yeah. It's hard to watch games on Saturday.
It's just, like last year, you're supposed to be excited for week one.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I just, hey, at least I got that Colorado game in week number 2. So if I'm an AD, right. I'm not taking my team to Ireland. And unless I'm playing at home and I have a layup game, I am not playing on a Thursday night because it'll ruin my fans' weekend.
Yeah.
I'm doing it all for you.
Okay, so I've always said about the Thursday games, I love that slate because usually, you're going to get some FBS teams, you're going to get some conference games. Penn State, Purdue 2 years ago, that was a lot of fun. We've seen, there was like Ohio State, Indiana one year that was entertaining. So not only do you get a couple of the FBS games, but typically you get an interconference game too that you're dialing. We got it last year with Nebraska, Minnesota. But you're absolutely right because I always loved that Thursday, and I was geeked about last year starting Nebraska, Minnesota on that Thursday, because it's, especially with what we do. And back in the day when I had afternoons, I would be off at 6, be either watching for the last hour, the first game that would kick off at 5. And last night that was Rutgers and Howard Griffin. But you would have the 6 o'clock games. And then it was just like, it was like rolling hour after hour start times. And it was amazing. So I remember we got done with Oscars. Everything was, okay, get what we need to get done now, get home, get everything situated. There's your game. And then you come back on Friday, which today, like we are, very, very excited about what we're going to see this weekend, all through Monday. Friday just felt so flat. We had all these questions. You're thinking, okay, what's this going to look like? Yet we had the entire college football schedule in front of us on Saturday. And honestly, I lost a lot of that excitement for it. So yes, I'm with you. Even if it's Nebraska playing a team that they would be favored by 24 on a Thursday, I don't want it anymore. And I thought this time last year, I was so excited for it. I don't want anything to do with it because it ruins your weekend.
I'm going to be honest, from this side of the table, I don't know how much I want to talk about UTEP. I'll talk about the season. I mean, UTEP has no respect for Nebraska. They didn't even release a depth chart.
And they're, calling out, well, I guess the players didn't call out Dylan's physique, but the fans are calling out Dylan's physique.
Really?
Yeah, they're talking about his stomach. Yeah, I was getting some play.
It makes him relatable.
His stomach?
Yeah, they were saying something about it. And there was a tweet. I'll have to go back and see this, but this was making the rounds over the last 48 hours of, I think it was another reference of he was on another preseason, like all freshman watch list. And they said he also leads all freshmen with the biggest beer belly or something like that.
What?
Yeah.
Doesn't even look like he drinks beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, even more so not to even talk about UTEP.
Right.
Okay. You're 27.5-point underdogs for a reason. Odds makers know what they're talking about.
I didn't know UTEP had diehard fans that would chime in on something like that. So
you should crack open 2 beers in the huddle.
Yeah, maybe those diehard fans that are crushing Nebraska's savior should go to actual home game in El Paso.
Yeah.
All right. A little hot there, Get off your keyboard and maybe buy a ticket and go support your team.
It's a pretty view.
There you
go.
You've never been to the Sun Bowl.
So we do have to talk about it because it's the game tomorrow. It's the game to kick off the season. But there's a lot more to the 24 season. I know everybody's attaching a number to the season. We did it yesterday. Nixonator. I'm just a 7er. I'm not opposed to going up. I won't go down.
Only in the winter.
But everybody's got a number attached to this season. I will go a step further a little bit later in the show of how many numbers are attached to teams that end up in a bowl game, which might be more important than an actual 7 or an 8er, or was there a 9er in there? The lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. Brett Siania from Pick Six Previews is going to join us. Interesting slate of games. Could we have some people eliminated from the playoff this weekend? What if Notre Dame loses Texas A&M? What if USC loses? Does that mean it's over for Lincoln Riley? Does that mean that they're going to go get Clay Helton?
I love it.
Because Clay Helton has more wins in a Big Ten stadium of late than Lincoln Riley does. Brett's joining us coming up at 7:30. Lee Sterling is back. He'll join us at 7:50. Brandon Vogel with his thoughts and a good read that just popped in my email box from Counter Read. He'll be in at 8:30. Mike Schaefer stops by at 9, and Matt Verzal at 9:20. That is a Football Friday fiesta. Lots on what happened last night. Lots on the week 1 of the season. And, of course, the Big Ten.
All 34 teams.
It's got off to outside of Minnesota. I mean, Illinois.
Yep.
Luke Altmaier.
Got a shut piece. Rutgers. They effed around in the first half.
They did. What'd that end up? 44-7?
Yep. They still covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
By the way, that was a late. You asked me if I was doing anything. That was a late addition before that game kicked off, and I was not very happy at halftime because I'm like, Jesus, Rutgers needs to blow it open, and they did.
Oh, you bring in breakfast then?
That
being
line,
richer now.
That line was a little beefy. It was a little beefy, and because I am high. I know. You are somewhat, but Connor's out of this entire station the most high on Rutgers. I'm also drinking a little bit of the Rutgers Kool-Aid, so I thought, what the heck? And I went very light, just a 20 spot, but it was a backdoor.
I mean, there are some programs where you go, it's week number 1.
Yeah.
But when you make bold proclamations and you say, you have my attention and I tune in to watch you, I better see something that is different from the last time I watched you. That's all I'm asking. I'm a simple man. I just want to see not the same issues from the last time I watched you.
I don't think that's a lot to ask for. That's not too much. I don't think that's anything that the coaching staff would be completely dismissive of.
Maybe Colorado fans would be less fearful of their program and ask these hard questions.
Well, you're taking your cues from your head guy. Guys, we're good. Everything's good. We'll run the ball when we need to.
Last night hammered home the point. Next Saturday night, Lincoln is going to be an absolute blank show.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine there will be a ton of celebrities that will be here as well.
Think T.O. will be back? We'll have T.O. and T.O.
That's what we need.
Oh.
That's a podcast right there.
T.O.
Would you guys be surprised if Dwayne Wade and LeBron James were in Lincoln next weekend?
No, especially with LeBron tweeting out last night.
Can we get Spo here too? Just get everyone.
Remember, LeBron was supposed to be here a few years ago.
What do you want, UD as well?
Yeah. Oh, hell yes.
Remember the LeBron D. Wade Ohio State Nebraska game that supposedly they were golfing at Firethorn that morning?
Yeah. Boy, you should have seen that drive LeBron hit on 17. 18's a little bit tricky. Boy, he looked good on 17. All right, line brought to you by the Roofery's at John Higgins Weather God. Off and running.
They caught Hank. I found that out.
By the way, real quickly, just obscure kind of random observation. Arkansas doesn't like football. Their stadium was. They had. I get it. You're playing Arkansas Pine Bluff on a Thursday, but
was that game in Fayetteville or Little Rock?
Fayetteville.
It was in Little Rock.
It was Little Rock.
So it was the one game they play in Little Rock.
It was in Little Rock.
That's what they gave them.
They had a lot of empty seats there. I wasn't dialed into that game, but I was just kind of clicking back and forth a little bit, and they'd show the back end zone, and oof. Look, come on, Arkansas. I thought y'all liked football. I know you like baseball. Oh, you like sports. You like Arkansas.
I thought they liked Little Rock.
What the hell?
They have cable TV in Arkansas. Maybe people like sitting at home.
Was that Little Rock Stadium hold like 40 maybe?
Yeah.
Couldn't get 40 there?
You have a great point about the TV, though. As humid as it was where I was, I can only imagine what it was in Arkansas. So I'd probably stay watching the air conditioning.
And maybe that was. Thursday, it's...
Don't play FCS teams.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yep.
You know what? And when you play an FCS team and your fans are like, I ain't paying top dollar for that. Don't complain as a coach, okay? Do better. Do better.
All right, you're gonna.
I'm gonna say the same thing on week 3 around here. I hate FCS teams playing that as a home game and charging fans the full rate.
You're gonna need to reel me in on this one now, because if I'm to help us focus on tomorrow, I need you to at least say that stop, because now I'm starting to go with the Colorado thing here.
That's okay. Let's just, you know what? Today is not the day to talk about UTEP.
Okay.
All right. We talked enough about UTEP.
Okay. Yeah, we did.
Let's start talking about Colorado and what Tommy Hill is going to need to do.
Can we also talk about their attempt to stripe out the stadium? What was that?
At Colorado?
Yeah. So you had...
I don't know. I was more fixated when they would show the students.
Well, which time? the fluke interception where
I thought I drank a lot of this. Every student they showed was like,
and
6 o'clock game on a Thursday. Gorgeous
had some
night.
Great outfits going on there too. So I respect a good stripe out. I think a good stripe out is, especially when executed well, it looks great.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet you love that gum when you were a kid.
That's what I was thinking.
I actually did not like the gum,
especially when it's a tip.
So they had the one section white, one section black.
The tip, just the tip.
Oh, still talking about the fruit stripe gum?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you had section was all the dark colored jerseys or shirts. And then you'd go on the upper level, and then it was cockeyed off of what the other. I get it. They tried, and you did have some definitive sections, but then it got completely inconsistent. I don't know why. Watching that game, I'm like, this makes no sense. I know it's a stupid observation, but it was an observation that come on. Is this your first attempt at a stripe out? Maybe the stadium is not conducive to having a straight across the top down to the field level stripe out, but at least make the middle section that you can control consistent to go stripe, section, all one color. Then they go stripe, and then there'd be another couple. There was no rhyme or reason. I was trying to figure out if there was some type of theme that I wasn't aware of, but it didn't look good. So anyway, do better. Yeah, I know. I know there's a lot more to take away from that one, but that was the other thing they kept showing. I'm like, what am I missing here? What am I missing here with this?
We are off and rolling ahead of
had to get that off
next Saturday.
I knew I'd forget it.
When the biggest circus in Memorial Stadium since Farm Aid in '87 arrives.
I know they got it.
We will build this up and probably still not be able to touch how angry, raucous, just bizarre wildness that next week on a Saturday against Colorado will be. Now, the only way that it would ruin it is if something is ruined tomorrow in Lincoln. Okay? Yeah. But I don't want to talk about UTEP. Okay, I'm on to Colorado.
Well, okay.
I'm on to Colorado.
And we're not here on Monday, so I think we can make up for that day that we're not here by already giving you a little bit of Colorado talk.
All right. Brett Siania will join us coming up at 7:30. Week 1, college football is here on a Football Friday Fiesta in studio on 1620 The Zone.
$16.20 The Zone and Liberty First Credit Union present Ralston Day, sponsored by Liberty First Credit Union and all of our stations. It's going on now till September 2nd. You can even watch the Nebraska UTEP game. All of the fun activities taking place at the Liberty First Credit Union parking lot. Free admission, carnival rides, music, food trucks, and more.
All right, welcome back in. Football Friday Fiesta. Nebraska opens up the 2024 season. against UTEP tomorrow afternoon. Kickoff a little after 2:30. Jason Benetti will be on the call for Fox. Big Fox is where Nebraska UTEP will be. Don't forget Big Red Overreaction afterwards. Connor and Nick will have it handled for you. And then we're on to Colorado. We are on to Eric, who starts off the show on a Friday on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, couple takeaways from the game. Shador's a real good quarterback, but after watching that, next week, I think Nash and Ty are going to be awfully hungry. That D-line is, I think our D-line will just eat them alive. Those plays that he was extending last night, I mean, he got hit quite a bit. And he, I don't know, like that North Dakota State line handled them pretty well. And then the second thing I kind of took away from it was Horn running across the middle, wide open. I just don't see our safeties allowing any of that business. I think they'll bottle that up, and it's going to be hard to make all those plays when he's on his butt. So just kind of curious what you guys think about their offensive line versus our D line matchup and everything. So have a good one, guys.
All right, thanks, Eric.
You know, there were focusing on Seton a little bit yesterday too, but if we remember Seton on the offensive line for Colorado, and he's a true freshman, he's a stud, 5-star guy, obviously, that last year Nebraska had no issues getting to Shedeur Sanders, especially in the first half. I mean, that was happening quite a bit. To Eric's point about extending some of those plays, yeah, there were moments, and I'm assuming a lot of Nebraska fans watching the game last night were thinking probably a lot where Eric is of. This is where Shedeur Sanders, I think, is very gifted because, I mean, he can run, but he will use that as a last resort. His ability to get in and out of the pocket and extend, I think, is always going to be an issue no matter how good the defense is. But yeah, to Eric's point, I think there were a few instances, especially the one where it ended up being the pass interference where the linebacker doesn't turn around on that desperation heave on third down. That one in particular, I found myself wondering if you're a Nebraska defensive line and you're getting to that lane quicker where he's not able to basically roll right and then spin back to the left and then step up and make that throw. That again, there were moments in that game that you think a better defensive line, a more experienced defensive line, they're going to be gap sound or at least disciplined where they're not over pursuing one way or the other. That's one where I would like to think Nebraska have a chance to get to him. And then I brought up the touchdown pass, the first one to Travis Hunter, that you're in a cover two, and then, okay, you're giving him a cushion, so Travis Hunter makes that catch, but then the angle the safety took to try to take down Travis Hunter and helping out, that to me is the difference between FCS, FBS a little bit right there too, where I would also like to think good safeties, whether we're talking about Nebraska or even what you're going to see in the Big 12 week in and week out, are going to take a proper angle, or it's still going to maybe go for 15, 20 yards, but you're not going to let them house that because you're taking the proper angle too. So I think there were plenty of examples last night where, okay, as much respect as you're going to put to the North Dakota State football program, and they should have it because that is a program that does a lot of things the right way.
It's also a program that they hurt themselves last night, not only with a loss. No, nobody's going to schedule them.
Yeah,
you're insane if you're a Power 4 program to schedule North Dakota State moving forward.
Took them this long to figure that out.
I mean, I kept thinking about it. You know what? Did we not learn after Iowa?
Yeah, I told them after 2010.
Just do not play North Dakota State. But Rick George says, we got this. They hurt themselves last night. People aren't going to play them anymore.
Point. No, it's a good point.
And knowing people up there, they do struggle. They really want to, financially start the year by playing a Power 4, and no one will play them.
Especially now.
That's like, was Oklahoma State going to regret playing South Dakota State this weekend?
I was just going to say that. How that game goes, do you add another team to that list of, God, what are we doing? Why are we putting this team on the schedule?
So a couple of things here about what Eric said about defensively. Now, remember, Nebraska got to Sanders 7 times, ended up with 8 sacks in the game, but they got to him 7 times, and we didn't know much about the defensive line then. They have a chance to eat, but they also have a chance, and I think this goes for the entire season when it comes to Nebraska's defense, which last year they were at about a little over 2.5 sacks per game. and they've talked about ratcheting up that number. Well, look at a lot of times last year, Nebraska got close. They got in the vicinity, but they didn't get to the quarterback or they didn't bring him down and the ball was out and it was either incomplete or downfield, whatever. But they did not get the quarterback down. That's a big thing this year is when Nebraska gets home, and I think they have a deeper variety of guys to rush the passer, that when they get home, they got to bring him down. So that's just like when you play a team like Shedeur Sanders and he is crafty and he keeps plays alive with his legs. He's got great vision. He keeps his head up. He's got poise and he's got a big boy arm. Is that when you have a chance to wrap him up and bring him down and contain him in a pocket, not let him get outside the tackles, you got to be able to do that. I think it'll be interesting next Saturday. Sorry, again, Utah. Quarterbacks outside of the pocket, how each defense maneuvers, because last night I thought North Dakota State was more effective when the quarterbacks got outside of the pocket. I don't know if that's necessarily Raiola's game, but keep that. Yep. That's a talking point for next week. But also, Nebraska defensively is going to get a nice little taste of it tomorrow because UTEP will try and go quick. UTEP's going to try and play in space, and they're going to try and win matchups and go one-on-one. So they're going to play at a faster tempo, which kind of Colorado does a bit. I didn't think they, at least last night, they were not as fast as they started to go last year on offense. But UTEP will go really, really fast tomorrow. It's going to force you to tackle. Now, we didn't really at any point last year question Nebraska's tackling because Nebraska, even as they wore down in November, here or there, and I know I can bring up Iowa, they had some key missed tackles, but for the most part, all season long, Nebraska tackled really well. And they did a good job of gang tackling, which I'd like to see more of, but also one-on-one tackling. When you play Colorado and you get guys in space and you get one-on-one matchups, you got to be able to bring them down and tackle. There's also going to be a talking point for next week. We can talk about how do you slow down Sanders, how do you slow down Hunter, how do you, try and have a modicum of attention towards Colorado's rushing game, which was 16 carries for 42 yards. Nebraska's defensive line is going to have a chance to eat. Okay, them guys going to be going to the Golden Corral, the Old Country Buffet. They're going to go to.
There we go.
They're going to go to Pizza Ranch. I mean, they're going to go to all the buffets leading up to that game. Nebraska's defensive line has a chance to have a huge day. But I also want to focus on the offense. Regardless of what we think about an advantage for Nebraska on defense against Colorado, Nebraska's going to have to score some points. Nebraska will have to score 4 touchdowns next Saturday to win that game. At least 4 touchdowns. Could be 4 offensive touchdowns, but they're going to need 4 touchdowns. And another thing last night that I think hurt North Dakota State is that game went on. It wasn't just early in the game or later in the game when they started to fall behind and they lost the lead. And this is a coaching thing. I don't care if you're a big boy coach, you're a little boy coach, or you want to be a coach. Do not be cute. Okay, there is a time to be cute. When you're on your profile on Tinder, be cute. When you're on the IG, be cute. But when you're coaching football, don't be cute, okay? If it's there, take it. That's what I would tell people. If it's there, take it. Don't be cute. I thought North Dakota State last night, they got cute. You can't, when you play a team like Colorado, and maybe I'm way off here, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're looking at it from an FCS against FBS, and you're like, oh man, we got to roll the dice, we got to do this, and this.
Keep on their toes.
I don't care. Don't get cute. And I think Nebraska offensively, that's actually what I want to see the whole year. Is Nebraska calls plays that are there to win games, not to score points, but to win games. And I thought North Dakota State got a little bit too cute last night in areas where they could have just been nice and simple, got a first down, or been able to punch one into the end zone.
So the one area that I circle is it was cool to see there at the end. Cole Payton comes in, he gets the first down. Why did they leave him in though? Because again, I think
I love Cole. I don't. It works for them. I don't think a 2-quarterback system worked for him last night.
Well, and because if you remember too, this would have been 2 previous drives before that happened. He comes in, and again, there's the MO of, change up guy. They're probably going to want to get physical with him. But you could tell he had some time that first on his first appearance where he's kind of bounced around the pocket, but there just wasn't really any depth, and it just kind of collapsed on him. I thought it was a great call to bring him in. He gets that first down. But when I saw him, and they zone in on him, you're thinking he's going off the sideline, then he's coming right back in. And it was almost like it confused Cole as well. You want me to stay in for another play? Where I truly feel like Cam Miller had the best grasp of this offense, especially in that part of the game. So I'm wanting him to handle the football in that moment, if that's me. The other part you brought up, which I think is going to be 100% key, and I'm watching this happen for a team like North Dakota State that does so many things very good. What they lack in talent, they know what they're trying to get done. Little things, whatever cliche you want to use is, we use it Northwestern, very disciplined. They're not going to make mistakes. They're going to force you to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. They missed so many tackles last night. And again, this goes back to whether it's the FCS level versus the FBS level. Colorado has guys that if you do not tackle, and they've got a number of them too, because it was. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. It was on the perimeter, and this is a play that probably
Wester, Horn,
Hunter. It was West. Yeah, it was Wester. Yep.
I mean, pass catchers and the guy slinging it are pretty damn good.
Yeah, LeJante Wester, and this was just a simple little swing. It was a check down, and you've got a one-on-one, which is probably going to get you at the most 5 yards. Whiff on a tackle, it goes for 15, 20 yards. Another one happens, similar play, and I think it was Wester again, gets out in space. And this time I'll give Wester credit. There's engagement, but he essentially bowls the guy over. And I would 100% echo what you said about this defensive identity a year ago. And we saw it even in the first half of the Colorado game when Nebraska got gouged in the second half. This was a swarm tackling, sure tackling group. If there is one thing that we've had some gripe about with previous Nebraska defenses going all the way back to some of the Bo Pelini teams where they wouldn't tackle well in space, they wouldn't flow to the football, things like that. You couldn't say that about this defense for the most part. Collectively, this is a very good tackling team. So that has to be huge.
To add to your point, before we get to a Jimmy update, is if you look at, and the Colorado game last year was a prime example, Nebraska had busts, and they weren't necessarily missed tackles, but they were busts on coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that it's one of the lower points in Tommy Hill's career.
Yeah.
And that the Tommy Hill experience existed in September, and then it disappeared in November, and we didn't talk about, buying a ticket for the Tommy Hill experience. But Nebraska, not only being a very good tackling team, is they're well coached where you didn't have a lot of busts. Remember, last year, in terms of a defense allowing plays that were 10 yards or less or 30 yards or more, in both of those kind of key categories, Nebraska defensively, in not allowing, we're in the top 7.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So you're well-schooled. You didn't have a lot of busts. You knew your coverage. You had good communication, but also you could tackle well. All of those things will be necessary against the team from Colorado 100%. Coming up. And tomorrow. Again,
you want to see this stuff tomorrow.
UTEP will come in here and they will look like some other teams that have come into Lincoln, and they're going to go quick. Okay, they're going to do everything is going to be quick. And it doesn't matter unless it starts to be a snowball where it's 3 and out, down 7-0. Mm-hmm. Back out there, 3 and out, now it's 14-0. But it'll be a nice little test for Nebraska defensively tomorrow to get sped up and to play one-on-one and have guys tackle in space. Yeah. And that second level, I think UTEP will try to exploit Nebraska's second level. So I want to see, without the Reimers of the world, if that crew can tackle on their own.
Yep.
They don't need help. John Bullock, which I'm using him as an example. I'm not saying he doesn't, but if John Bullock can tackle from from the boundary of the sideline, that kind of stuff.
And so we're thinking of the same thing, because tomorrow, the certain things that I'm looking for tomorrow, and we'll get to this later, obviously, but if we're doing the pick to click again, I've got a member of that linebacking core that is very much important.
All right, got an update coming up next. We got Brett Siania and Lee Sterling in the next hour on 1620 The Zone.
Poor Arkansas peanut butter. They lost by a lot last night, 70-0. Thoughts and prayers. High school football, as predicted, weather played a factor in games. Some games were delayed at halftime because of the lightning, but I did see a wonderful interview with Coach Lamangi of Westside with the sunset in the background after the storms had passed and the waters receded. Why were they interviewing him? Because they won again. Braylon Warren, the son of great ex-Husker lineman Steve Warren, ran and threw for touchdowns in the second half as Westside extended their winning streak to 20 with a 22-7 win at Phelps Field. Warren was 14 of 23 for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 33 yards to Keenan Cotton midway through the second quarter, and 8 yards to Quentin Warren, no relation in the third quarter. So good start. Good thing to hear that teams got their games in. Games tonight should be absolutely gorgeous. All the weather's moved out. Should be comfortable. Lower humidity. Have a good time. The volleyball team at Nebraska will have a good time tonight. They're playing in the Emeritus Players Challenge at Devaney this weekend. They will face the Islanders of Texas A&M Corpus Christi tonight at 7 in their home opener, and then they face TCU tomorrow night at 7:30. The other matches in said Players Challenge, TCU versus Oklahoma Friday at 4:30, recalling an upset by TCU in football in Week 1 of the 2005 season and set the tone for their season. A&M Corpus Christi will play Oklahoma also at 1. Well, Oklahoma will be in town. Tonight's match will be televised on Nebraska Public Media and streamed on the Big Plus. Tomorrow's match against TCU will only be streamed on the Big Plus. College football last night. Lots of things. We told you Arkansas beat Arkansas Peanut Butter 70-0. Stephen F. Austin defeated North American, the entire continent, 77-0 last night in the season opener that went to 5-minute quarters in the second half after the Lumberjacks led by 70 at halftime. Called a lot of high school games that had those running clocks. FCS Stephen F. Austin scored touchdowns on 11 consecutive drives, honoring the great Texas hero, and outgained its NAIA opponent by a total yardage margin of 675-40. This reads like Nebraska against Iowa State circa 1995. Might actually be, NAU ran just 40 plays, not Northern Arizona. They're too good. They ran just 40 plays on offense, finished with 45 passing yards, emulating the 1989 Cowboys. And they had -5 rushing yards, but only 1 turnover in the loss. Hey, it's all about perspective. The two teams combined for 18 total offensive plays during the abbreviated second half, and they all got the hell out of here. So people are wondering who is North American. Well, they're a private university in Stafford, Texas, and they played their inaugural football season in 2020 and joined NAIA in 2022. The Stallions, the Connor Stallions, went 1-10 last season. Hey, they won a game, including a 91-0 loss to Portland State. All right, well, get them scheduled. Play them on Thursday. Howard coach Larry Scott, fresh off running the Pac-12 conference into the ground, wasn't happy with Rutgers counterpart Greg Schiano. No, it's not that Larry Scott. After the Scarlet Knights scored a touchdown on the final play of a 44-7 win against Howard, the school, not the Duck, Scott walked across the field, shook hands with Schiano. What is it about coaches wanting to get angry with Greg Schiano after games? And they seemed to say something to the Rutgers coach, probably saying, hey, I got you guys 10-2 this year. Schiano turned around, and it was unclear whether he responded. I think he probably had a 4-letter response, just a guess. In his postgame news conference, Scott made it clear he didn't like watching Antoine Raymond score an 11-yard run as time expired in regulation. He said that's not what he would have done. He would have probably tackled him short of the end zone to prevent that. Last night in Salt Lake, Cam Rising made his return with a career-high 5 touchdown passes to power number 12 and Big 12 superpower Utah to a 49-0 win over in-state bitter rival Southern Utah last night. Rising in his 27th year of college basketball, going back to when he played with Chris Fuamatu Mahafala, shined in his first game action since tearing multiple knee ligaments in the Utes Rose Bowl loss to Penn State a couple years ago. He went 10-15 for 254 yards and 25 rushing yards as the 84th consecutive sellout crowd at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Oh, that's cute. They have a solid streak. 84 held its collective breath on each rush. He left the game in the second quarter with Utah up 35-0 after leading 5 consecutive scoring drives. Wisconsin hires longtime NFL coach and Dallas Cowboy legend Jack Del Rio to its staff, where he'll serve as a senior advisor of Luke Fickell. A lot of ball between the two. Del Rio most recently served as the Washington Commies defensive coordinator until he was fired in November. He will work with both the offense and defense at Wisconsin and assist Fickell, who starts his second season at the school tonight against Western Michigan. Finally, it will be 11 years later than planned, but Atlanta will have its day in the center of the college basketball universe again. All right, mark it down. We're going to have another pandemic in 2031. They're selected to host the 2031 NCAA Men's Final Four. The city was supposed to host the marquee event in 2020, and in an alternate reality, they did a hell of a job as Kansas won another national championship in 2020. Only to have it canceled by COVID. Nobody won. The final games of the March Madness tournament will be played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. COVID pending. This will be the 6th time Atlanta has been awarded the Final Four and the 5th time it will host. Members of the Atlanta Sports Council met in July with the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee in Park City. That sounds bougie. To complete the final phase of the bid process, the focus was on finishing what we started following the cancellation. We all want to finish what we're started. Lots of football tonight, lots of football tomorrow. It's the best damn time of the year.
Good morning to the timekeepers over at Gretna, who last night during our delay, right as halftime hit in the Gretna Elkhorn game, it started to pour. And so the timing, we're like, okay, got about 20 minutes here of halftime. The storm will come through. We'll be back, start the third quarter.
After Andy Griffith.
And then the lightning hit. No, I think they went to Steve Harvey. Well, we are tape delayed.
Oh, that's right.
So we couldn't interrupt Steve Harvey's Family Feud. So
it's a banger. People
the TV booth over at Gretna is right next to the PA booth and that game ops. And their scoreboard, they evacuated because there were storms coming. And we were delayed a total of 80 minutes. But they put, just like they've started at the College World Series, when they have a lightning delay, they put the time, the 30 minutes, and they count down.
Yeah.
And I would watch the guy. And so they had all the equipment to, okay, this is a lightning strike in the area.
Yeah, they're detecting it.
The guy would look at me. We'd make eye contact. I'm like, no, don't do it. He would stop the clock and reset it to 30. We got down to under 24, and I'm like, here we go. Dang, there's another one. So when we got to about 15 minutes, I was like, no. And then there was way in the distance, there was a lightning strike.
Yeah.
And I immediately looked at the guy, and he looked away. I'm like, my man. So good morning to those folks.
I love it. He pretended he did not see it.
But the audible groan when you are in a weather delay and you see that clock is just ticking down, and then it goes back to 30.
So I was doing this was state soccer a long time ago, and it was the night game out at Morrison, and there was probably, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to go, and everything had been running late anyway. So now that it's interesting you say that the high schools are starting to do the clock actually displaying, because now that everybody has a video board where they can do that stuff. Before that, it was just if you saw lightning at any point, you would get the collective groan from the crowd of
that's the
because they all
version.
knew that it got reset. So now not only do you get to see the lightning, the visual of that, but then the visual of the clock restarting. I feel, you know what? That is not a job that I'm sure a lot of people want to have, especially when you're in that situation. So when you have to, and you're making eye contact with people, they're like, and they give you the sorry.
The weather will be fantastic tonight. It'll be great in Lincoln tomorrow. We have Bellevue West and Central.
What do you have tonight?
At one of the best settings in all of high school athletics in the state, Seaman Field.
Seaman is nice. I'm going to be at B-Town tonight.
Oh, right. That is one of the better games of the opening week.
Yeah.
Can
all right,
Bennington
Mayor.
make it 40 in a row?
Mayor Handley, let's go.
All right. UTEP tomorrow. Kickoff is 2:30. I've been asked by one of our listeners. Apparently thinks I have more power than I ever have, which is not true.
Okay.
I do not jinx Nebraska. So he said you at least have to talk about UTEP once an hour before you're talking about Colorado. So I'm talking about UTEP that they play here tomorrow, and it's going to be sunny and 85 at kickoff. And then once that game's over, we will focus on the all bling, no bang daddy ballers that'll be here next Saturday night in a game where the hashtag will make Memorial night games matter. That's my thing for the next 3 weeks after UTEP is make Memorial night games matter. And it would be a great start because the all bling, no bang daddy ballers are coming to town next Saturday.
You got to trademark. That's pretty good.
You do have me wondering about the celebrity list that we would see on.
It's
anyone from El Paso.
Sideline.
I mean, are we? I mean, like the last big celebrity, non-sports celebrity game at Nebraska was right before 9/11 when Notre Dame played here.
Oh,
I met a Supreme Court justice that night.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
I mean,
what about
he was next to Rush Limbaugh, and I didn't know his connection to Nebraska with his wife, but Clarence Thomas was here.
Wasn't Will Ferrell here for 07 USC? I think he was.
So.
I believe so.
I think he was. So we've had some.
But who Buffett? Oh, by the way, Warren Buffett turns 94 today.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Sure, all Omaha World Herald employees will be sending him a birthday card. Buffett was there. Limbaugh was there. Clarence Thomas was there. God, there were others. It was like, well, both teams were warming up.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of celebrities on the field. I think next Saturday will be very similar.
For
if
a
you're
throwback,
just going
gas
off
prices.
If you're going off by people on social media that are mentioning, hey, I'm going to be in Lincoln and looking for tickets or whatever. I mean, you
can make a killing.
And you know what? If you're recruiting that weekend, you don't have some big time celebrities that are on your sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't want to have is the other team have bigger celebrities than you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I think you do call up your old buddy, D. Wade and Gabrielle Union. I know LeBron was tweeting about
Saying Gary, call
Colorado,
him up?
but let's say, Dylan goes off. Hey, don't forget who plays the Thursday before that game too. And his little cousin is playing quarterback for Nebraska. What if Pete Mahomes wants to show up and give Dylan some love? They played before.
Did you say Pete?
Well, that's a good point.
Oh,
because
Pete Mahomes.
Pete Mahomes.
I like
because Kansas City plays
on
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. Little Cuzzo.
Oh,
I'm going to go check out Little Cuzzo.
The whole team will be here.
How cool would that
But
be?
does Texas Tech have a game? Like a game of
Oh,
interest?
true. I'm assuming they have a home game.
His personal and financial interest is a little bit higher down in Lubbock.
That's a fair point.
He's very good to those people down there.
All right, Brett Siania is going to join us here in a little bit. One of the other takeaways I had last night from the Minnesota-North Carolina game, wondering the premature fireworks setter-off guy or gal at Minnesota that was like, I got these fireworks. What do I do with them? I hear audible noises inside of the stadium. That's right. Hit the button. So while they're celebrating North Carolina, that is the missed field goal that gave North Carolina the win at the buzzer, there are fireworks going off on the rim of the stadium.
Did the Twins win? They could play it off as that.
They're like, Dinkytown is just on fire once again. But you have to focus on one of my other takeaways from that game is the aggressive older gentleman handshake hug that Mac Brown always delivers.
Yeah.
So you know that PJ Fleck is PJ Fleck.
Oh, and there's an intensity that comes with PJ, no matter what.
So Mac Brown is a hugger.
Yeah.
Like I also appreciate this about Mac Brown, who was on the top list of Bill Byrne to be the head coach at Nebraska after Tom Osborne retired, but he didn't have that choice. Mac Brown always gives you the impression that, you know what, if that field goal would have gone through the uprights last night and Minnesota would have beaten North Carolina, it'd have been okay.
Yeah, they deserved it. They're good people.
He's
State fair's going on.
He's not living or dying. I'm not living or dying by a made field goal or missed field goal. I've got this point in my life.
Yeah.
But when he does get excited, he likes to hug. He's a hugger. Like he hugs his players. Yeah. But like it's not like a warm embrace. It's like a big old man. It's an aggressive.
It means something.
He does this one thing that I have somebody that I interact with that they will once in a while hug and they take their open hand and they'll put it on the back of your neck. Not like to tap you out or anything. But they're like, that's
to bring you in. It's
they're
more
like
of
an aggressive, love ya hugger. And I'm like, I appreciate the hug, but why is the hand on the back of my neck?
I'll tell you why.
Mac
Gary.
Brown is that guy, but then Mac Brown goes with the handshake. So he's a hugger handshake guy. And then you have Fleck. I thought that Mac Brown was going to headbutt Fleck last night at midfield.
I just want to give you a hug.
Because Fleck wanted none of it. He just wanted to shake hands. He wanted to get out of there. And Mac Brown brought him in for the hug, and then he got the whispers in the ear.
Right. That's okay. So now you just answered your question.
It was just really kind of
shame on PJ. Make a new friend.
Typically, if you get the hand on the back of the neck, that's exactly what it's for. Is to give you some type of reassurance or some type of atta baby. It's supposed to mean more, Gary. It's supposed to be a moment where it's not just the obligatory handshake, but there are certain coaches that can impart wisdom even in your darkest hour of losing a football game.
Roll to Deion next week.
Mac whispers in his ear.
Yeah.
Why the right hash? PJ, why the right hash?
I was confused.
You know what, Coach? Hash awareness. It's really an underrated aspect.
What if he said that? What if he just said hash
underrated
awareness?
Aspect of coaches these days, PJ, is hash awareness.
That would be the best story to come out of that game if that's what he whispered into PJ Fleck's ear. And then PJ just has the intense look on his face of
it's fatherly advice.
He just dropped a bomb on me. He's just throwing truth bombs on me right now.
I give credit to Minnesota. Thank you. The Big Ten West may be gone, but you guys still play like you're in the Big Ten West. So they had 3rd down and goal from the 9. So what do you do? I mean, they had 1st down and goal at the 9. What do you do? You run. You run from the 9-yard line.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for keeping Big Ten West football alive. Now, ironically, they did miss a 27-yard field goal.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is pretty reliable. So that stings even more that he missed 2 crucial field goals, including the last one. But I thought Minnesota's defense was okay. Boy, Bosmer was and they had some weird play calling that entire game. I don't know if once Taylor was out before the game, it threw things out the window, but they just never seemed to be in sync because their defense did enough to win. Their defense did enough to corral Hampton that Minnesota could have won that game.
Well, and while he's still we remember him from that a year ago, that Thursday, and the punch out, but he was all over the field in that one. He was very big in this game too. But I know I gave Nebraska a lot of credit defensively last year because of what Minnesota did and what they always want to do, the identity of being physical and running the football. And that, if you remember, Minnesota last year in that game against Nebraska abandoned the run so quickly that it was almost as if, again, they didn't know what to do because they weren't having early success, which is very un-PJ Fleck in Minnesota. Like, that was the same thing last night too, but last year, I was okay to chalk it up to Nebraska defensively because I think it surprised me a little bit on how good they were up front. I suppose I can do that with North Carolina, but it was just, there's always been reverence to how PJ Fleck and how Minnesota know, they know their identity. They can play the strength of the line of scrimmage. But I got to admit, the last couple of years, they've been quick to get away from things that have worked from in the past. And so
they just stay Big Ten Westish.
We
don't ever leave it.
What was the legends and leaders' identities? I know that was all scattered, but it was good to see some big. So essentially, you're just saying you're in the red zone, you're working on a field goal. That's the goal.
I mean, you're 3rd down and goal from the 9, you're running the ball.
Yeah. Okay, field goal. We concede.
It was you mentioned this earlier. It was, and I don't know. I haven't seen an update today. Max Johnson, the quarterback of North Carolina, that's a bad injury.
That's Brad's son. For people who don't know.
Also, if you watch that game, two final things. My observation of that game is Brock Heward is really good at his job. I
was glad we got them.
I enjoy Brock, so I will listen. Because of them being in Seattle and the time difference here, I will once in a while listen to his talk show. He does a morning talk show on Seattle Sports 710. He's really good in that role. Man, he shined last night. So as a quarterback, and I don't know, he may know Brad Johnson, know the family. He was really emotional when Max Johnson went down and had to be carted out the field.
Yeah.
And then I thought he handled, because this isn't easy for an analyst, okay, in real time, to digest and decipher things. I thought as that game was coming to an end and there was some crucial, Fleck, what are you doing now? Even outside of why are you going to the right hash mark? I thought Brock Heward did a really good job of breaking that down on the fly. So kudos to him. He's really, really good. We'll see him this weekend. The other is, what did you guys think of the uniform matchup last night?
So when Minnesota has gone all gold, I've been a fan, but I didn't like the mismatch of the gold and then the.
Does Minnesota have more?
I like their all blacks though.
My mom used to say, because she was a big Ronald Reagan fan.
Oh, okay.
She said she'd always say something like, "Yeah, such and such has more problems than Reagan." Okay. Does this apply to the amount of uniforms that Minnesota football has?
Yeah, they've got a lot.
They seem like they roll out a new uniform every other game.
Yeah. I had not seen the gold and maroon combo. I've seen gold on gold. Obviously, maroon on maroon is their typical home. They'll go maroon on white. I'm a fan of when they go the all black and they kind of have the Kevlar looking helmets and stuff. I wasn't a big fan. Like the full gold, you're going gold on gold. I'm cool with that. But combining the two, no, I'm not.
I'm not a big uniform police. I mean, just look how I dress. But I thought on my screen in HD last night, that game popped with Carolina's normal colors and then Minnesota's combination of colors.
Did you have ultra high def? Because I bet it was really popping then. I don't have ultra high def.
Nick, to be honest, I'm just glad that when I wake up in the morning, my cable in one room where I still have cable,
it works.
When I look at the box, it doesn't just have a lit up B, it actually has the time of day. It's just simple things when it comes to that. Brett Siania, simple man with a lot to talk about. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. As we get ready for week number 1, the Saturday that is here, and Brett is loaded up and ready to go. Lee Sterling as well in this hour of Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. You should be fired up as well because you've heard us talking about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Now, you know what? I got something a little bit different for all of you. Now through September 22nd, don't wait. All FanDuel customers, all you got to do is bet $5, and you're going to get, listen to this, a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube, Nick, and YouTube TV.
Yeah, if you're a Chiefs fan, a Bears fan, Packers fan, Vikings fan, you don't want to spend money at your local establishment, you want to watch in the comfort of your own home, well, FanDuel's taking care of you. With a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, and all you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel it at any time. Just go to FanDuel.com. Use the promo code ZONE. That's FanDuel.com/zone, and download America's #1 sports book. 21 plus and present in Iowa. Full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
All right, all you sickos out there, you are with me. Thank you. We are brothers and sisters in arms. Yes, I did print out a TV grid for the weekend before I came into the studio.
As you should.
Brett Siania has his up on his man cave at his home, Pick Six Previews. He joins us now to kick off a Football Friday Fiesta, week number 1 of the 2024 season. Good morning, my man.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I can't believe it's finally kickoff week. It's been a long off season, so we're back. It just feels great to have football back. There's some good games last night and a big slate coming Saturday.
Quick thoughts. What stood out for the good and the bad last night in the football that you watched?
Yeah, well, Colorado and North Dakota State was a battle. The Bison really represented themselves well again. Came a few yards short. I think with Colorado, you have a dynamic quarterback. We knew that with Shadur Sanders. They have great receivers with Horn and Hunter and Shepard. But the offensive line remains an issue. The defensive line disappointed me. I thought that was a position group they really upgraded in the portal. It did not come true. Maybe credit the Bison offensive line. So I see some opportunities there for Nebraska next week to exploit the Colorado roster. That was the pros and cons of Colorado. Elsewhere, UNC, their quarterback got knocked out for the year. You hate to see that in the opening game. Backup rallied them to a win behind a decent defensive performance from UNC. But a lot to cover. Those are just a couple things that stood out.
Hey, I want to start with the Notre Dame-Texas A&M game, and a game that is so unique from the standpoint of you have a head coach now at Texas A&M who is going to be going up against his old quarterback in Riley Leonard, but also Riley Leonard coming off the ankle surgery. And just your expectations of what you see tomorrow, and will we see a lot of scoring given these two defenses in this one?
Yeah, we definitely could. I think this matchup I'm really excited to see is Notre Dame's offensive line against A&M's defensive line. It's strength on strength. I mean, when you think of offensive line programs, you think Notre Dame, although they catch them in a year where they lose 2 tackles to the pros and their rising starter was knocked out for the year. So they're a little thin there at tackle compared to their own standards. So, but you're right. It's a total mystery with the transitional type team. New head coach, new quarterback for A&M with Connor Weigman back healthy. So I don't know what to expect from A&M. They're definitely a wild card mystery team. I've got them in my top 20, but I don't know how that'll convert. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame here. It's a tight line. They're actually an underdog at Kyle Field, but I'm going to go and stick with my playoff pick, Notre Dame.
And Marcus Freeman is pretty good on the road as a underdog. I like the week 1 slate. I think next week gives us a little bit more. But there's also the game in Atlanta between Georgia and Clemson. And we know how people feel about Georgia. We know how people feel about the philosophy and the portal of Dabo Swinney. My question here, Brett, is I look at this matchup and I look at who's playing quarterback for Clemson. Can Clemson score in this game? They're a double-figure underdog, which is wild to say. But can they even score against Georgia?
Yeah, well, I've been calling Georgia my 33rd NFL team all offseason. They're clearly the number 1 team in the country. It's such an NFL pipeline now under Kirby Smart. And I think if there was an expanded bracket last year, a 12-teamer last year, they'd have been the odds-on favorite to win it again, to make it 3 in a row. So they're my projected number 1 team. I think they cover the 13-point spread against Clemson, a team I'm fading with Clemson. And you're right, it's all about that portal. I'm a traditionalist. I love the old game as well, but there's certain areas you've got to adapt to, and that's certainly one of them. And speaking, can they score? I'm not a believer yet in Cade Klubnik. He disappointed me last year. It was supposed to be a new offense, revolutionized offense. It didn't come true at all last year. So against the best defense in the country, I'm going to go with Georgia to swarm Clemson and to run up that score there in Atlanta.
Gary brought this up yesterday. We were talking about the Brian Kelly season openers, and with another tough one on Sunday night against USC, if he could possibly go 0-3 as the LSU head coach in season openers. But this quarterback matchup is interesting with Moss and Nussmeier. But there was another conversation we were getting into, and maybe you're hearing it differently than what we are. It just seems like everyone is kind of chalking this up as USC season to get adjusted to the Big Ten before we put a lot on their plate. It's the post-Caleb Williams era with Lincoln Riley as well. But if they were to win that game in Vegas over LSU, what do you think the conversation about USC is going forward? Are they squarely back on the radar as far as, okay, here we go, USC, take them serious? Unless you already are taking them serious.
Well, it depends. I mean, I've got them about 22nd in my preseason poll, but if they were to go and beat LSU, a blue blood, or I should say a blue chip roster with 5 stars everywhere, that would be serious grounds for top 10 consideration, and they'd be thrown into the Big Ten race, in my opinion. So that's a big if. I see some similarities between these teams. They're both replacing Heisman winners at quarterback. But I think given their track records as coaching staffs, I think both will be able to field another strong offense. The bigger question is what they can do fixing their defenses. It was 2 of the weaker units in the country last year. They are both very offense heavy, and they made some interesting coordinator hires. USC added 3 experienced coordinators to come in and try and fix this thing. LSU went out and signed the biggest coordinator contract in college football history, giving Blake Baker $2.5 million. So I like the Baker hire more. I like LSU's recruiting profile more recently. So I think their defense gets fixed quicker. So I'm going to go with LSU with the more complete team here.
Brett Siania from Pick Six Previews joining us on Football Friday Fiesta. It is your go-to source for all of college football. Brett joins us every Friday. Where you live in this part of this wonderful country, you're around a lot of Penn State fans. I love that there is old hate at Milan Pusker Stadium coming up on Saturday night. I think that's a great matchup. Old football in the past. We're in the Big East. We got Penn State and we got West Virginia. We got a lot of interesting things. I like Neil Brown, but let's focus on Penn State. How do you think, Brett, in the new landscape where Penn State kind of gets a new life, but what does the new life look like with Drew Aller and a really good offensive off-season hiring for James Franklin of his new OC coming from KU?
Yeah, well, I called it the coordinator hire of the year, bringing in Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas. We saw what he did there in Kansas at a really, really struggling program, turned them into a top 10 offense in consecutive years. So that was with 2 stars and walk-ons. Now he takes on 5 stars all across this roster, a 5-star quarterback, a pair of 5-star running backs, and a former 5-star receiver, Julian Fleming, coming in from Ohio State. So there's a lot of tools here to build a great offense. I think they make some serious gains here. It's also Aller's second season, and you tend to see a second-year quarterback get a boost there. So I like Penn State to make the playoff. I like them to cover that 8-point spread at West Virginia. I think West Virginia is a trap game if it's like middle of November or October where it's a Tuesday or something and it's freezing cold, but it's hard to overlook a season opener. I think they're going to be fired up. And lastly, to your point about the location, I'm stuck here in this college football dead zone here, the Northeast. It's all pro sports. And I wonder, thinking about what you're talking about with the regional conference, I think that's maybe what ended up hurting this region's college football passion is the lack of a regional conference. Every other spot in the country had one, except for this Northeast. I think Penn State going independent really ended the shot of having that. I know there was the Big East, but you lose some big brands when you lose Penn State in there and Virginia Tech and teams like that. So I wonder, I always think back if there was a really established Northeast conference. I know Paterno tried to put one in and it got rejected. I wonder if we'd be in more of a college football passionate area here.
Brett, I wouldn't even put this as a sneaky good game. There's just so many good games this weekend, and a team that you're pretty high on in Miami going to the Swamp, and this is supposed to be the year that Miami, with the addition of Cam Ward, takes that to another level. The one thing that I will give Florida credit for, and a guy that we were curious how it would work out in Florida, was Graham Mertz, who actually did improve a year ago. So this game in the Swamp, obviously want to know where you stand on this one, but if Miami is to come away with its one victorious, how big of a boost is that one for the validation that you see Miami, especially with a lot of the preseason forecasts with this team and their ceiling?
Yeah, that's a great point. Miami, I'm the only magazine in the country to pick them to win the ACC. Every other mag had Florida State. So I guess we saw what they all had in Ireland, and I think I'll take what's behind door number 2 here. It's a mystery, but I'd rather see what Miami's got. And I think they did a really good job through the transfer portal and the high school ranks. They're the only team in the country to stack top 10 recruiting classes the last 2 years and top 10 transfer hauls the last 2 cycles. So a lot of great talent. You mentioned a couple names there. But yeah, for them to go into the Swamp against a really strong recruiter, an SEC team, a tough environment, I think that would really validate the other voters in the country to move them into that top 10 discussion. So I opened them up in 10th in the country. I think they're 19th in the AP. This would be a huge boost to them. And I think they got it done. I think they covered that 3-point spread. And yeah, I was impressed by Graham Mertz, one of the biggest surprises of the year last year, his passing offense. But they have too many holes on that roster and a lot of pressure on Billy Napier. So I'm going to go with Miami here to launch what I think could be a special season.
Hey, this isn't near the top of the card, but this is more of a bigger picture question. The defending national champions open up against Fresno State tomorrow night on NBC, and there's a connection between Nebraska and Michigan in this game because the last national champion to begin the next year with a brand new head coach was Frank Solich when he took over in 98. They got Sharon Moore, who's taken over for Jim Harbaugh. You got some of the distractions. You got Moore saying, yeah, let's take this the whole way against the NCAA. Michigan is breaking in a new quarterback. They got some issues on offense. They are playing Fresno State. The line is 3 touchdowns. How do you see the Michigan season unfolding? Because when they're done with Fresno State, Brett, you know what's on the horizon next week in Ann Arbor, and that's the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, well, seriously, that's going to be the real test. I would favor Texas to go into Ann Arbor and win it. But, yeah, it's, I guess, a little bit different than the transition from Osborne to Solich. A little bit before my time, but what I've read about it seems that that Osborne really rode off into the sunset there, clinching his 3rd national title in 4 years. Had announced that before the game, I believe, and they sent him out a winner against Tennessee. This one was pretty turbulent if you think about Michigan, the way that he was sanctioned for half the season, suspended for 6 games. He came back and they ended up winning a playoff race. Then he departs the next week for the NFL. It was, I don't know, it seems like a different scenario, and they're still under NCAA investigation. And roster-wise, they lose 10 offensive starters. The thing that made them really special was their offensive line. All 5 starters are gone, and their best guy, the 6th guy, is gone. So it's so much rebuilding. I have them finishing outside the playoff bracket this year, probably going 8-4 or 9-3, which in this new system is not going to be strong enough. So too many holes on offense. Defensively, still some transition, although I think they'll remain a top unit there. But, so I'm not sure about Fresno State, but next week against Texas, you got to go Horns in that one.
Okay, I got to ask this one because I'm sure if you're inundated with a lot of college football, there's a lot of games going on at this time, that if you see the score graphic and it says Oklahoma State 14, South Dakota State 14, then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, okay, keep your eye on this one because you're looking at the line on this one. We know what South Dakota State has, especially returning Mark on Gronowski at quarterback. Is this one on the – if we're looking at top 25 teams that are on upset alert, does this one fit the bill?
You got to throw it into the discussion because they're only a single-digit favorite at home. It's crazy. I think they're 9.5-point favorite right now against South Dakota State, the reigning FCS champion. And I think that's showing a lot of respect to the FCS top programs. You saw what North Dakota State did last night. You saw Western Carolina hang in there with the ranked NC State team until the 4th quarter. They actually led in the 4th quarter. So, a lot of respect there. I don't see it, though, this time around because Oklahoma State, they've had their scares before in the opening part of the season. And Mike Gundy even referenced this week. He said they started their game prep a whole week early this time around based off recent scares, but then also out of respect to this strong South Dakota State program. A very veteran team, too, with Oklahoma State. 20 starters back from a team that made it to a Big 12 title game last year. So it doesn't look like the formula for me for an upset alert, but it's going to be probably a physical game and a good test for them.
Hey, we know that in opening week that we may get a wild one. Last week in Ireland was the 4th straight year that a top 10 team lost to an unranked team, but now we're in week 1. Are there a couple of games that you will have your antenna up that might be upsets to some?
Yeah, well, I guess that right away that Notre Dame A&M, it's hard to call it an upset when it's a top 10 team, but they are barely underdogs. They're going into Kyle Field. Let me see what else here. Miami versus Florida will be tight. We talked about that one. Just scrolling down the list. I don't know. Maybe the Oklahoma State we talked about. A lot of big lines, guys. I'm looking at all 30 points, 40 points. I'm trying to find a competitive game here for an upset. But you know what? That's what makes our sport special. They come out of nowhere when you least expect it. Maybe I'll throw in Wyoming versus Arizona State. I see that they're only a touchdown.
Yes.
Yeah, they're only a touchdown favorite at home. It's Kenny Dillingham's 2nd year there, but it's really not ready to. They're not ready to contend for a bowl. So, and Wyoming is like the giant killer in September. So we'll see how they go through their coach transition. But Maybe that one. Hey, maybe Boston College. Make it 0-2 for Florida State on Monday night. I would love to see that as a BC alumni. See our dual threat quarterback. There's my bias coming in. Let's see Bill O'Brien taking over the reins. Make them 0-2.
Hey, Brett, we appreciate it. We will talk to you next Friday ahead of what'll be going around here between Nebraska and Colorado, and a great Week 2 slate. It's great to be back. Great to have you back, and enjoy the football over the holiday weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
That's Brett Siania from Pick Six Previews. I actually really like that Wyoming getting a touchdown at Arizona State. That's one of the plays that is that I've whittled down from 30 that I liked on the card. I've now gotten down to 16. I'd like to get to 10, but I know Wyoming and Arizona State will stay on it.
How many games you got in play this weekend? Are you going to be around?
Well, I don't want that many.
Yeah,
I would like to just be 10 to start when I drive over to the parking lot of a grocery store in Council Bluffs and then drive back.
I'm going light this weekend, and then once we get in the NFL, because I can't help myself. I got to get at least 2 or 3 NFL plays in. So, 3. But I'll if we want to do that later on, I got 3 that I'm into tomorrow and this weekend.
Brett Siania will join us every Friday. Lee Sterling as well. That's a good back-to-back from Paramount Sports. I'm looking at his card. He's such a homer.
He's got the big ones.
He is such a homer. Lee joins us next for the first time in the football season on 1620 The Zone. All right, our guy is back. It is football season, and our good friend Lee Sterling for another year on 1620 The Zone from Paramount Sports. Good morning. It is great to hear your voice because that means one thing, Lee. It's football season.
Yep. What an exciting year. I mean, with the 12-team expanded playoff, I mean, there is hope everywhere. There's hope in my household. Hope with both of you guys.
You know what? It is. I mean, hey, there's still hope for Florida State. Let's start right there.
Right.
Florida State gets beat in Ireland. They still have hope to make the playoffs. Now they got to come back and play a Monday game. Bill O'Brien makes his debut. Big line, one of the many big lines on the opening week. But what do you like about Florida State BC for that game in Tallahassee and the Noles trying to bounce back?
Well, here's the problem for Florida State. They're going to have to face a similar quarterback to last week. This kid, Castellanos, he ran for 95 yards in the game last year, threw for 305. I said from the start, DJ Ugalele was not the right guy. I mean, I threw my share of interceptions in high school and college. He had like 4 or 5 passes. I never threw as bad. So I'm going to go with Boston College cover. I don't think they can win. I think Florida State wins 31-20, but Boston College covers.
All right, so you being the South Beach guy, you being Mr. Miami, they take on Florida. I don't feel like I have to ask you where you are on this one, but we're seeing this one now at 2.5 in favor of the Hurricanes in the Swamp.
Yeah, I think that Miami has finally turned the corner. Mario actually even hired an in-game consultant. It took him like 6 years of coaching at Oregon and Miami to figure that out. They have the best quarterback maybe since the mid-'80s, and Benny Testaverde, or early '90s with Gino Torretta and Cam Ward. They got some line play, offensive and defensive lines, both rated in the top 10. Sunbelt Billy, I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, if he doesn't win this game, I think he's done. I mean, probably mid or late November. Their over-under is 4.5. They have the toughest schedule in the country. They need turnovers to win this game, and their defense produced just 7 all year. Right team's favored, Miami 31-24.
Huge game for James Franklin on the road at West Virginia. Atmosphere is going to be, well, as they say, Lee, here in the Midwest, liquored up. But big year for Penn State with that hope of the expanded playoff on the road to open the year. Intriguing matchup against a good Neil Brown team. How do you see Penn State, West Virginia?
Yeah, I think the top 2 teams are going to be Ohio State and the Oregon Ducks. But the third spot, I think, is wide open, and that team could get in the playoffs here. They've just owned West Virginia. They've won 49 of the 60 games between the 2 teams. You talk about big brother and little brother. Penn State, every game they won last year, 9 of the 10 were by more than 17 points. I think West Virginia comes on, but they're just 6-7 against the spread as a home dog. Not much of a home field advantage under Neil Brown here. As Lee Corso says, not so fast. Penn State 31-20.
All right. Big one tomorrow. And then we see with Georgia and Clemson, marquee matchup. But the quarterback comparison probably couldn't be any different between Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik. Georgia is laying 2 touchdowns at -13 in some books right now. Where are you at with the Dogs and the Tigers?
Well, the Dogs return 14. Clemson returns 13. Looks about the same. But Dabo, just like Air Force, Army, and Navy, not accepting transfers, and I think it's a mistake here. Georgia, they won the title 2 years in a row, and they added running back Trevor Etienne, tight end from Stanford, Yoroshik, and a wide receiver from Miami, Colby Young. So they've got like 17 returning starters. They have the number 4 special teams. Neutral site games, they're 19-9. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. Georgia, 34-13.
I like that. I've used that line before, not necessarily when it comes to football gambling. Pittsburgh, Kent State in the 4-0 of the 4-1-2. Kent State was 1-11 last year. Brand new head coach. Now they got to take on Pittsburgh, who underperformed. Pittsburgh's an over a 3-touchdown favorite. Do the Panthers start 1-0?
I think they start 1-0, but I mean, if they're looking to win big, it's going to be tough. I mean, they got to replace a lot of guys. So, you look at some of these games and you're like, oh, okay. Most people just lay the points and go with the favorite. Not in this one here. I think it's going to take Pitt maybe a few games to get rolling here. Their opponent can throw the football, doesn't turn the football over here. They'll win 38-21, but no cover.
One of the great things that everybody can always get involved with you, Lee, and Paramount Sports is a free play. We're looking at Texas A&M and the Notre Dame game with the slight edge going to the home Aggies.
Anyone wants to get that game for free, call 800-400-9741. Give them the game for free. 800-400-9741. The game's on me. Won 29 out of 30 years. And let's end it with Nebraska here. I think Nebraska is going to win big, guys. I love Riola. I popped in the tape when I watched the spring game. Don't listen to any sound. And I think they finally have found their guy. And UTEP, they fired their coach. I think Scotty Wald might be good in 2 or 3 years, but any kid with talent, they hit the highway here. Romper Room special, Nebraska 52-7.
Boom.
Woo.
Lee, great
All right.
to have you back. We'll talk to you next week ahead of Nebraska, Colorado. Enjoy your Canes this weekend.
You too, guys. Take care.
That's Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. You can follow him on Paramount Sports, and that information, get that free play. Thank you, Lee. The line is there for a reason. The odds makers are right this weekend. I said 42-10. The line is 27.5. The total is still 49.5, I think. I haven't looked in about a day.
What do you say about good teams?
Good teams win, great teams cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nebraska gets ready for the all bling, no bang daddy ballers.
I don't want to rush through it tomorrow.
Oh.
I don't want to rush through it tomorrow. There's a lot to take in tomorrow, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think a lot of the and I'm hoping that's where a lot of the conversation shifts after the game tomorrow is just starting early on amping that game up on the 7th.
There are people in this great state of ours that are ready for a rebirth.
Yep. I like that.
They are ready for a rebirth. I got to change my voice here because it seems like I'm preaching. It just coincides that somebody who is ready to lead and be part of the rebirth showed up with the same mindset that y'all have, and he's the quarterback. We're going to talk about him plenty here in the next 2 hours.
So you can just do it in the voice of Doc Sadler. Then you're not preaching.
That Dylan guy, I can't do that.
15.
You look at, Lee used the word hope. That's a great word to use. Andy Dufresne.
Hype and hope are different.
But if you lose hope, you got nothing.
Ain't
but
that
that's
the
what.
truth?
If you don't have dreams, you have nightmares.
When I used to watch Days of Our Lives on NBC, when Bo lost hope, done.
Oh, yeah.
Done. Toast. Days of Our Lives still on?
Yes. Dad was crushed when that happened. I was like, I don't know who these people are.
Now,
are any of them my mom?
It's wild that Young and the Restless, which I one semester in
Y&R?
Lincoln rearranged my schedule around Y&R.
Do you call it Y&R? If you called it Y&R, then you were a religious viewer, weren't you?
When you Price is Right was over.
So periodically, like, you get home, you'll flip through channels. It is still on. It's like some of the same people.
Yeah.
So I heard Jack Abbott passed away.
Some of the same people. Huh?
Yeah.
That's
but
kind of
hope is a powerful thing. There's hope, and then there is a rebirth, and maybe tomorrow is the start of the rebirth with a kid that was not born the last time that Nebraska football was very much relevant.
Yeah.
Put that on a bumper sticker. I just fully husked myself there without my hands.
Impressive.
It actually was.
I'm glad.
It was.
I'm glad you didn't do that without your hands. Just good Saturday thoughts.
I mean,
it's amazing the impact it can have, especially us in our 40s.
People on 1620 The Zone TV. So the phrase that I use when we end up a Friday show, I actually have it on a shirt.
Beautiful.
Live, laugh, and punt.
And I asked the question.
Happens to be in black and gold.
Yeah, I had asked that question early, and then it made a lot of sense of what the theme for the Iowa Success Train was last year, and that was Tory Taylor and the punt.
And I was gonna stop you there. I was gonna say I got this off Pittsburgh Steeler Barstool.
Colorado.
I was thinking that.
You can't wear that on next Friday.
Oh no, I won't.
Okay. You got a little something cooked up.
Something about Promise Keepers?
No. You know what?
You got a You Believe shirt?
I don't know. I mean,
get Sharpie circa 1992 next week.
I'd love for the media to treat me like they treat Deion. I'd like to have my balls coddled all the time.
It's fun.
It is the media fluffer.
It's a strange thing. And you know what? Because while we talk about hope, there also is fear, which she was not on Days of Our Lives. But I said this early in the show. I said there's like a fear of, like, you know what? You if you want credit, you got to be able to take the scrutiny when there's no credit to be given. And you can't tell me that if I saw you at the end of last year, remember, I'm actually probably a fairly big supporter of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I had them at 6-6.
Yeah.
I thought they'd cover last night. I had 31-17. They ended up with 31-26.
Josh said 9-3 Wednesday, by the way, in my office.
I mean, they're not
9-3.
9-3. Because you know why? They're the same undisciplined football program.
Yep.
I will do this. This is what one of the things that I'm looking forward to tomorrow is I know what I saw the last time Nebraska played in that stadium against Iowa. What plagued them?
Mm-hmm.
I know that personnel is different, but there is football, for the most part, stays the same. I want to see something different, that the same issues that you had last year don't look like the same issues in game one. That was not the case last night watching Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think in some areas, subtly, they've changed things. They still got two great dudes.
Yeah, and that can mask some things.
That are ballers.
Yeah.
But in terms of the entire program, how it operates, your same issues are there. The undisciplined stuff. Just you know what? You do get paid to coach. Maybe make some coaching decisions that make sense instead of padding stats.
Yeah.
You know what? Quit treating your college football program like it's fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Treat it like it's reality.
Yeah. No, it's the bigger takeaway from yesterday is that, dare I say, same Colorado from a year ago. Now, to Colorado's credit in this particular conversation about Nebraska, they got Nebraska. So until Nebraska is able to return that favor, they have that on them. And the things that you could probably look at and say is the most promising thing about Colorado is indeed their playmakers, which they've added, but it's still number 12 and number 2 that are going to keep you up late at night if you're a defensive coordinator more than anything. But there are so many areas that if you just, especially with the guys that you have, now Nebraska, again, with guys defensively, we'll see about the offense, how that functions again with a new quarterback and everything tomorrow. But defensively, tell me you're not watching that game yesterday and looking at some of those mistakes that were being made by North Dakota State. And we talked about a lot of those in the first hour and thinking, man, I'd love to see Marquise Buford be right there. Boy, I think Mekhi Bayer could really be an impact right there. Oh, boy, I think John Bull. Oh, man, think about what Isaac Gifford's going to do all over that place. Think about what the D-line can do against that offensive line. Think about getting Shedeur Sanders in constant. And again, this is the goal. I'm not saying this happens, but you already have seen what Nebraska's defense can do. If they can get him in a constant state of pressure and distress, how does Shedeur Sanders respond to that? How do these receivers respond to that when you're not giving them a 10-yard cushion and your safeties are taking proper angles? All those different things still like that matchup.
We got to take a break. Coming up, Brandon Vogel is going to join us here shortly. Mike Schaefer, Matt Verzal as well. And we gave numbers on the season. How many games will Nebraska win this year against teams that go to a bowl game? Because Nebraska last year got to 5. But how about winning games against teams that matter and when they're playing in December?
Mm-hmm.
If Nebraska is going to be one of those teams playing in December, don't they have to beat teams that are also going to be playing in December with them? How many of those wins will Nebraska have on their schedule this year? Essentially, how many teams will Nebraska beat that also end up in a bowl game? Look up that number. We'll do that when we come back on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. Also, it'll be the home for Big Red Overreaction via Purdue on the 28th of September in downtown with the guy sitting to my right.
Hey, just to hope that that's a drinking day and celebration
Yes.
and not of sorrow.
I would love to show up to Omaha Whiskey Fest, Gary, and send you a smoked old fashioned in celebration. But Nebraska is 5-0.
I'm sure a lot of people would accept that.
Yes.
Hey, I think it's an interesting nugget. Bly Hill's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah.
He got injured in the spring game. We didn't know what was going to happen. All of a sudden, we panicked about cornerback, and he was not full go at the beginning of camp, but then got cleared, and he will play tomorrow. That's a huge bonus for Nebraska because I thought it would take a little bit longer, and especially with what's coming next week, to get him some reps and get him some confidence on that knee and full actual game stuff. Subtle guy to watch tomorrow among others. All right, coming up here in a little bit, Brandon Vogel will join the show ahead of Nebraska and UTEP before Nebraska and Colorado. We will talk some UTEP.
There, you mentioned UTEP. Lots of things to say about UTEP.
Got to be fair. One quick thing I do want to say, while ESPN and other media that follow Colorado does a lot of ball coddling, is I hope tomorrow that the Big Ten does this, or the Fox does the same thing for the Big Ten. So tomorrow is the first day that the two pregame shows go head to head.
Yep.
And one pregame show has Saban, the other has Urban Meyer.
Yep.
One pregame show has the SEC, and they've got a pretty good slate on the mothership and ABC for the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten is Fox's property.
Yep.
Fox doesn't have a daily show, or they have daily shows, the talking head shows, but they very rarely talk college football, let alone the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that Fox just go ahead and be a Big Ten propaganda channel. That's what ESPN has become for the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Fox leans into it, and they very rarely talk about the SEC, and it's a lot about the Big Ten or the other conferences that they own. Because if you watch ESPN,
I try not to.
It's all about SEC.
Yeah, and here's the thing about the slate this weekend too, with the teams that are on display, and which I think are in really unique positions when it comes to the Fox and Fox properties and partnership of the Big Ten with the television media partners. So you're going to have the defending national champion, and what's going to be a really interesting season for Michigan playing in primetime on NBC. Yeah. You've got the team that most people think can be the national champion in 2024 with Ohio State playing on that new coveted CBS slot at 2:30. Yep. And then you've got the story, even though Oregon, by the way, welcome to Big Ten football, Oregon. You get BTN week out of the gate treatment at 6:30, which is always a fun one. But
what's wrong with that?
There's a lot there. I mean, and I think even the Nebraska conversation will be something. So even though there's not necessarily the major marquee matchups in the Big Ten, between the storylines and where you have certain teams slotted throughout the day in the networks that will be covering them, I think there's going to be a golden opportunity for Fox to lean into that.
I hope on their pregame show, they spew nothing but Big Ten takes.
Mm-hmm.
They probably will.
And the guy on the set on ESPN, which now that Saban is there and McAfee, I don't know what the use of Desmond Howard is. Him and Herbstreit being the two Big Ten guys on the set.
Yeah.
One of them, I don't know what Desmond Howard offers.
You just get a lot of
you watch tomorrow. Wow. You watch tomorrow. They will make it sound like Colorado looked really, really good.
Oh, hell yeah. Yep. Man, did you see Travis Underboy? Shedeur Sanders can sling it. Gosh, that's such a good combination.
Doesn't the Big Nude start at 8 now?
No, I think there's still 2 hours.
Okay,
ESPN is going 3. Hey, Saban's impressive.
Yep. Yeah,
he's got the weird hand gestures, but I've gotten over that because I used to talk with my hands a lot. He's good. He is really, really good in that role. I mean, and because he's so good in that role, they can transition Corso away.
Yes.
And Corso can go out and they don't really miss a beat. And people will go, oh, you forced Corso out. Well, now they have a guy that they can put in Corso's seat, and Corso can be like the goodbye tour.
Yeah.
Have him here and there. Like he's back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
How will they incorporate him? Because they do have a lot of people on that set.
Yeah.
But Saban's really, really good. I don't know what Desmond Howard offers. What if I offered you this prop bet here?
Okay.
The wins by Nebraska this year, You mentioned 8. I'm
Mhm.
7. A lot of people are 8. Some are 7. Some might be 6. Some might be 10. Some might be like, I'm not sure yet. Let me see tomorrow's game. But Nebraska needs to start winning games that matter and beating teams that matter in December.
Mhm.
Essentially, they're playing in a bowl game. And Nebraska's on a roll here of at least they beat one team that ends up in a bowl game, it seems like.
Yeah.
Last year, they beat Northwestern. If I put the total at 3.5 wins over future bowl teams in 2024, future or playoff teams, are you taking the under or over?
I'm just barely under. Okay, so with the way that future prediction of the season, how it goes, I've got them with 2. But here comes the 50-50 games too. So I don't have, full disclosure, I've got Colorado and Wisconsin as wins against both teams. As far as teams that I think you can put a scenario out there that is plausible, I think you can add USC in there. I'm really fascinated on how USC is going to look, especially that time of the year. Iowa's, hell, we know how that game has gone even on some of the more lean years for Nebraska. That's just always a close game, 50-50 toss-up. And then Rutgers. I think you can plausibly look at the over in hitting 5, because I think all 5 of those teams that I just mentioned right there are going to be bowl teams. But as it stands right now, I've got 2. So I got the under.
Okay. There is a case that could be made that Nebraska has the Will Shooters. There's 7 teams in there. UTEP, Northern Iowa, Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, UCLA. Still hard for me to grasp that a program that hasn't been to a bowl game since 16 went 5-7. And I know that you can change, but all of a sudden I should just say, oh yeah, they got 7 Will Shooters on their schedule. I've been here too long to see that. But could this season essentially, in terms of if you want to jump to 8, you want to jump to 9, be in a conversation around Thanksgiving, come down to 4 games, and your, joker flipping the coin games, or, you know what? If you wake up on the right side of the bed and luck be a lady tonight, you might win that game.
Yeah.
Aren't there 4 to decide if you are going up or staying the same? Colorado, Wisconsin, Iowa, USC.
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I still think Colorado goes 6-6. I know Daddy's Ballers are going to make it to a bowl game.
We all got a dream.
Wisconsin will be a bowl team.
Yep.
USC will be a bowl team.
Yep.
Iowa will be a bowl team.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State will be a bowl team. I think Rutgers will be a bowl team.
Yep.
That's true. Colorado could buy tickets.
So what do you do? No, I think they find their way into 6. Maybe it may take until. They're going to have to. Colorado is going to have to beat somebody they're not expected to beat.
Yeah,
and run the
to
ball.
get there. But I'm supposed to focus on UTEP, so I got to stop with Colorado. So
2:30 tomorrow.
In those 4 games, Nebraska goes.
In the 4 games, I think they go 2-2. Which, if that's the case,
you're still under the total I just set out. Yep.
So you had the 4. But if that's the case, let's say that because I keep, I keep focusing on the back end of this season as a gauge of success. You cannot even start the conversation about success anymore. We're so far past the whole, well, man, they're competitive. Wins. Got to have wins. But the next part of that conversation, how you finish matters. How you finish with this schedule matters, because you do have, as daunting of a task as it's going to be on the 26th of October to go out to Columbus, Ohio. You get UCLA at home. That's a gift. Going out to USC, where, again, it's not a true home venue. You're going to have plenty of support there in that game. And, oh, by the way, you get a bye week before USC. All right, so there is a moment in the schedule where you got to take advantage of that. Wisconsin, now's the time. I have that one down as a win. And then the Iowa, however that one goes, if you can finish that last stretch above 500, those 5 games, I think that is a major success given that schedule. Because you know what you also have done in that part too? Not only are you getting some teams that are going to be bowl eligible, but here's the other thing. taking care of business against the teams that you have recruited better than and have dudes more talent than that we've seen in previous years that Nebraska shoots themselves in the foot, they crap the bed. Starting to establish even that part of it this year too, and then knocking off some bowl teams, it also to me is a good step forward.
On a Colorado note with ESPN, I imagine the ratings are going to be pretty good. As a group we were watching last night, I mean, ESPN's in the business to make money. I mean, that was a smart. I'd put Colorado up. People will watch.
Oh yeah.
Okay. As long as Deion is on the sidelines, people are going to watch Colorado. So I don't. ESPN's smart. I have Colorado on
especially
much as
early in the season.
Possible. I mean, if you think about it, why would a 5-7 and 4-8 team be playing in prime time on NBC? They shouldn't. But they're playing because one has a celebrity coach.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. We all got to make some money. We program decisions. We give people what they want. But Colin does bring up a point, and this is where ESPN, I think, is fearful of pushback from the Colt. And, I mean, it was in full display last night by Mark Jones when they said they showed the graphic about ESPN and what Deion felt like Sean Keeler had attacked his faith.
Oh, I know where you're going with this too.
So, but they prefaced it by what he told us.
Yeah.
What other coach is allowed to do that and have a graphic and a segment in the middle of a game like that? Colin writes in, watching SVP fawn over Hunter in Colorado right after the game was almost sickening last night. Here's another thing. I think in college athletics, in terms of broadcasting football games, did we not have a first last night? The first time that a football player has ever been interviewed at halftime that was on the losing team. Shedeur Sanders was interviewed at halftime last night. Welcome to the new NIL era. I think we made broadcasting history in Boulder.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw that question posed, and from the losing team, you're right, because we saw it last week with Florida State, and DJU was interviewed, but they were leading at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So from the standpoint of the losing team at half, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So is this going to be new in the NIL era that your agents are, pushing to have their clients interviewed? And if that's the case, I would think that Dylan is going to be interviewed quite a bit.
I would think so.
I'm not
too.
saying that as a negative. I'm just saying, if that's the reality of the new era and you do that, instead of interviewing the coach at halftime, you interview the player.
Yep.
People are going to get to be introduced to Dylan Raiola sooner than later, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, will Fox have him on at halftime? Like, Nebraska's leaving the field tomorrow. Will Dylan Raiola be interviewed?
I would say there is a strong likelihood that he is. If not, it's going to be maybe Ty or Nash. But no, it's. I mean, if you're looking at the guy that's going to get the most, for lack of a better
Neither
term,
one of those
clicks,
guys have a Panini trading card, right?
Yes. Yes, that's true.
You can't avoid it any further because it's about to be unleashed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is Nebraska has a potential star.
Yep.
They have like a real star.
Mm-hmm.
And he can his star can only burn as bright as his play on the field.
Oh.
But if his play on the field keeps the star illuminated, you're going to see a lot of him. That's fine. I mean, if Nebraska wants to go places, they got to have a quarterback.
No,
but I'm wondering if this opens the door to more of the prominent, well-known players that will be introduced at halftime. And we've done away with the coaches interview, which who knows what you get out of that anyhow.
Right. I mean, it is interesting to get the player just for, if anything else, just something new. Yeah. But I'm curious how many times it will not be the quarterback of that team unless that guy is absolutely atrocious or injured in the first half.
No. But last night we had broadcasting history, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's going to continue, and especially this is the intrigue. I think a lot of people are making this more of a Colorado thing of, well, it was Shedeur Sanders. It was always going to be Shedeur Sanders. Okay, let's watch how this weekend plays out, though, when they do this, because I think you're going to see the most recognizable player, as long as he had even some type of role in the first half, whether they're leading or not leading, they will be the guy.
So will NBC next Saturday night carry the water for a Big Ten team or the water for a coach?
I would hope NBC will be Team Big Ten.
Nebraska fans will be on watch.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be calling Mike McKnight to have him investigate NBC and their biased coverage of Nebraska.
Okay, and I'm not trying to insinuate that you're triggered by this.
Because people in Fargo are. I mean,
And
people in Fargo
they should
turned
be.
off their NBC or their ESPN affiliate up there.
Oh, and I don't blame them.
Just kidding.
I don't I don't blame North Dakota State fans to be a little disgruntled about how that broadcast went. I'm sure you probably knew what to expect going into it, but and I'm not saying you're triggered by the Shedeur Sanders or anything like that.
It's all about programming.
Yeah.
Hey, people watch him. Okay, he is a star. He's a legit star that is one of the faces of college football.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with them doing. I just think it's the new NIL. Guy was on the losing side. He wasn't winning at halftime.
No, and that part of it was interesting, but to me wasn't when it came to the broadcast. But there was something you brought up, and I'm glad you did because I totally forgot about it until just now. When they brought up Deion's had this crazy 2 weeks, and they gave the quotes and everything. The way Mark Jones talked about that quote essentially was, and these were personal attacks towards Deion. Really? So this is the first college head football coach that has ever been criticized by a columnist. And you had the action taken by Deion Sanders because it's Deion Sanders, because it's Colorado. We're now going to, instead of saying, boy, that was kind of a whole crazy situation, now we're going to make Deion Sanders out to be the victim. To me, and I don't know if Mark Jones misspoke or the way that he presented that, but that came across as, and it basically came across as there was this columnist that's different than your average columnist that really got personal and really attacked, and they took some words out of there too. To me, that was, again, that was pretty bad on ESPN's part. That was pretty bad on Jones's part as well. I thought, come on, man. He's a grown man. He's played in the game at the high level. He's now coaching this game. And now we're going to make him out to be a victim because he was subject to what every other head football coach is subject to, especially when they're making money in the world of being second guessed and criticized. Again, nothing I thought was said that was so egregious that you would take those types of actions.
Yeah, because you're fearful of the pushback if you say anything negative when you're on the broadcast.
I thought
not that it's your role as a play-by-play guy to choose sides. You're there to present the game and present the facts.
Yeah.
But when you start opinionating things that are going on that are out there for people to consume, and what he told us that he felt like his faith was being attacked.
Yeah,
I
thought that was gross.
That's not for the broadcast.
I thought that was gross.
But I mean, coddle the balls. We will not do that with Brandon Vogel. His family thanks us from counterread.com. He's coming next. All right, your Friday morning appointment is this show, of course, on a Football Friday Fiesta, and also at counterread.com, which you should be a subscriber of, because that's where you'll get a full breakdown of the upcoming weekend. And it starts with UTEP, and we start with Brandon Vogel, who joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
I have just read through this because it came in while, of course, our show is starting. Another fantastic preview to get everybody ready for UTEP. Even some things in there that you put that I don't think some of us have talked about yet, and we've talked about a lot. But I want to start with this, as now we're on the eve of a very highly anticipated season. Why will this be the year that instead of disappointing their fan base, Nebraska football will reward their fan base?
I think the defense will remain strong. Whether or not it hits the numbers it did last year will be up for debate. But even if it falls off a little, it's not falling far. Top 25 defense, let's call it that. I think the offense will be more complementary, which will allow it to operate more the way that it is intended. And beyond that, I think a lot of it becomes a little touchy-feely behind the scenes stuff, but everything I've seen from the coaching staff so far is kind of meshes with how I think football teams are actually built. So those are kind of the three categories for me that have me thinking this season will be the one where it actually feels as good as it was supposed to feel in the summer.
Well, and B, you've got a strong grasp on this. So we've talked about in being able to reverse that horrible record from 2018 to present day with Nebraska in one-score games, and especially when they have to either drive the ball or hold a team off. You know, it's been well documented of those struggles. But as far as the numbers, the things that have plagued Nebraska in those moments in the fourth quarter, if there is an area that you think improves the most, helping Nebraska be on the better side of those games, what area are you most confident going into starting tomorrow that serves Nebraska well in that manner?
Yeah, I think we might see this on Saturday too, where Rule mentioned it. It's going to be hot, specifically on the turf. I like Nebraska's depth, and it's not proven depth in a lot of spots, but we know the coaching staff's willingness to go to young guys, to really try to get everybody ready, and there's no hesitancy there. I think that'll work. So I think that part of it can help Nebraska a little bit later in games where it has faltered. The part that I'm uncertain about, but would probably help the most, would just be getting out ahead. Interceptions go down when you have a lead. Mm-hmm. Fumbles still happen where fumbles happen, but fewer QB runs should help with that. It's a lot easier to play from ahead. I wrote about this going into 2019, kind of the last time we were in this spot, and Nebraska was never able to get there during the Frost era. When you look at one-score losses, the thing I always go back to is if you fall behind, like how much energy do you have to expend just to get to the point where it can be a one-score game? It's a lot easier to be the team that fights that off than the team that fights all the way back uphill.
What gets you more excited about the passing game? There are more deep threat possibilities or more opportunities to do well in the middle of the field?
Middle of the field, I think, is more important for the immediate goals in 2024. And I like the options there. I like the versatility amongst this receiver group. Nebraska will hit some downfield shots. It hit some downfield shots last year in a different way. A lot of play action, a lot of option pass. But the guys who caught a lot of those balls are still here. So I think to be able to do that, I think they'll have more confidence in some deep shots just with a different type of quarterback back there. But for me, it's the middle of the field. I think we're going to see a lot of RPO from Nebraska, a lot of short stuff. That's what we saw in the spring game. And I think they have the athletes when you look at guys like Carter Nelson, potentially, Janier and Bonner in the slot, guys who can make people miss, who can make plays on their own. And I think that if things go well, that's a big part of Nebraska's offensive story in 2024.
Brandon, on the flip side on defense, looking again, starting with the product tomorrow, This is more of a question of the entire season, in your opinion, but just starting tomorrow, do you anticipate, and I know sometimes your hand's forced, but do you anticipate Nebraska having a lot more success getting home with four guys, 4 down linemen, not having to be exotic blitzing? And that is something that I know they want to do, but you think they have success starting tomorrow, and that's something that they will continue to be a strength of this defense?
I think they should. Certainly tomorrow. UTEP's offense transfers up and down the line at really every spot on the 2 deep, but that old line group, I think, might be as talented a group as they have on that side relative to the rest of the roster. That said, this Nebraska defensive front should be one of the 10 or 15 best in the country, I think, and that should be evident in a game with a 4 touchdown spread. So I would expect them to have success there. The key question will be, this is an offense that's going to go tempo. It's going to go fast. We're going to see how much depth Nebraska has up front. And I think if you're UTEP, the goal is to get the ball out fast enough that you're not having to mess with that pass rush so much. So Nebraska sack totals may not be all that high, but I think it'll be evident if they're influencing the passing game.
Hey, when do you think at some point, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's later in the season, when we'll know if Dylan Raiola is ready to be the quarterback at Nebraska?
Even if I come out of that tomorrow's game thinking that, I'll probably hold myself back. I think the Colorado game will be a decent enough test. Getting a look at the Buffs last night was interesting. So plenty to think about there already. I think you could see it as soon as the Colorado game, just because of what the magnitude of that will be, presuming Nebraska gets out of Saturday with a win, which I think they will. Because in terms of the on-field stuff, I don't have a lot of reservations about Dylan at this point. We'll see what he looks like tomorrow. It's more kind of the circus that things could become if he is close to as good as advertised as a true freshman, and that arrives on your doorstep next week, assuming both teams are 1-0.
Anything jump out last night as we were all taking it in? Anything jump out about Colorado, either surprised that they were this in one area or that in another area, that you start to automatically think about to next Saturday?
I thought that game played out really close to form. North Dakota State was able to control the clock, which was their path to victory. I think the big question I had was, could they contain Colorado's athleticism? And they couldn't. The skill players on that Colorado team are scary. They're, to use a coach term, very twitchy. But when you're not that so strong on the interior, twitchy it's a constant battle between twitchy and glitchy. And I think we saw that too. I wonder if Shedeur Sanders has ever said, "Dad, have you ever thought what this would look like if we didn't have scratch and dent offensive line?" Because I do. He's clearly a very, very good quarterback. Mm-hmm. North Dakota State was in his face all the time last night, and credit to him, he took the hits, made the plays when they needed them to be made, and it's going to work out even in its current form. It's going to be a first-round draft pick, but they're a team. I didn't see a lot last night that didn't remind me of last year, I guess would be the short way to say it.
So what you just said, what happened to Scratchy? Because the Itchy and Scratchy show I kind of liked. Now we got the Itchy and Twitchy show.
Yeah, I did like the Itchy and Scratchy show as well. I was probably more of a Scratchy guy if forced to choose.
Hey, with tomorrow to kick off this season, and everybody knows that the hype and or the confidence that has been pretty much across the board for about 6 months now. It's game one. It's a long season, but this is an older group that's going to play at least the first wave tomorrow. To you, what is the importance of the eye test on the opening week of the season, regardless of opponent?
I think it's pretty big when you look at. I mean, Nebraska hasn't won a season opener since 2019. And I think that's another big piece about how does this season not disappoint. Like this game coming out, and if I had to pick against the line, I wouldn't lay the points with Nebraska. It's just it's too big a line this early in the year. You can lose a game like that just based on kind of into game scenarios. So, but I do expect Nebraska to look pretty good. I think you want to see that veteran presence. You want to see some of the stuff we've heard about all off season in terms of leadership. It wouldn't surprise me at all. UTEP's going to throw a lot at them. I wrote in today's game preview the predictions part, which I'm not huge on predictions, but I'll make them anyway. I think UTEP will score the first touchdown of the game, and it'll be maybe their only touchdown of the game. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. See Nebraska kind of keep pulling the line would be the key thing for me, and gradually their advantage from scratch.
Okay, and to end with this one too, and we got into this discussion yesterday as far as because you just kind of alluded to it, because I think it was Bishop who said something similar about the first score of UTEP scoring out of the gate. If this, I asked you about the defense getting home. If you want to see early signs of this defense taking the next step, what do you need to see starting tomorrow collectively with this group?
Yep, I've got my eyes set on the secondary. I mean, what 4 or 5 of those guys are in the single digit club.
Mm-hmm.
It's a talented group. That said, against last year's defense, pick your poison. You'd rather throw against Nebraska than try and run it. At least that's what we saw most of the year. This one, UTEP's gonna, like I said, they're gonna go tempo. They're gonna throw short. It's kind of passing as the running game. It's a big game for tackling. And Rule said this, and I've kind of been fixated on it in the games I've watched since then. Like the thing you notice in week 1, winning early is about tackling, and that back 5 is going to be asked to tackle a lot. It's going to be asked to recognize a lot of formations and stay assignment sound. And if you don't do those 2 things, you can give up a big play on a short pass. This UTEP receiver group is small, but quick. So I think it's a decent challenge for a veteran group back there that should be, it definitely does have some of Nebraska's best players. So that's where I'll be looking on defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, great stuff leading up to it. I know you'll have a lot over the course of the weekend. As always, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you on Wednesday ahead of Colorado week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
It's Brandon Vogel from counterread.com. He's got his game preview up. Him and Aaron Sorensen will have a complete breakdown of everything going on. Go to counterread.com. We're not here to not play football is the submission in your email box this morning. This is Joe's contribution to the show on the 42 Degree Source Hotline. Morning, Joe.
Good morning, fellas. Are you guys ready for Nebraska football?
Probably could use a couple more hours.
Debatable.
Yeah.
Yet to be seen.
Coin toss. Coin toss.
Ready.
A little bit.
What's that?
I said a little bit. Yeah, I think we're there.
Yep, a little bit. I'm so excited. I got tickets. I'll be at the game tomorrow. Anyway, I can't believe how much we're talking about Deion. Deion in Colorado drive me nuts, but we'll have enough time to talk about those guys next week. But anyway.
You know what? You know the beauty of this, Joe, is that us talking about it, you talking about it, the guys in Lincoln that matter tomorrow probably are aware of it, but not talking about it.
Right.
So that's the good thing.
That's a valid point. I'm also a little bit of a realist, and I know it seems like we're kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse. We're talking about our offensive weapons and our receivers. They look better, but looking doesn't win you games. You got to get out there and start proving it. Tomorrow doesn't prove a whole lot. You just got to win some games. And we all know that, right? Like, your partner there, Handley, was saying that just a little bit ago. Man, we got to win games, man. Just win some doggone football games. Don't need to be cute. Don't need to be like fancy and gimmicky. Just need to play good, sound football. I hope they start that tomorrow afternoon. Like I said, I'm super excited. Can't wait. I actually got to meet Dylan and Jamar Banks here just the other day, or last Saturday, and great young men.
Joe, were you hanging out with Bud Crawford?
A little bit, yeah. I kind of. That's kind of my cup of tea.
I knew that.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
But,
Joe.
yeah, that's. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. I know you're excited, but I feel like some little bit of pause in your voice, though. You want to see it before you truly believe it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I
That's
think we've
fair.
got all the
That's
talent
fair.
in the world, but we've had all the talent in the world. We had it under Frost. We had it under other guys. It's just a matter of putting it together, playing mistake-free football. Or maybe not mistake-free, but, I mean, you're going to have hiccups, right? But let's just, in my opinion, let's pump the brakes. Let's just win Saturday, week by week, and see how it goes. But it seems like Husker Nation has always sort of got the cart ahead of the horse.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen somebody the other day talking about the Heisman and Dylan Raiola. He hasn't taken one snap yet. It's like, come on, dude. Like, is that helping us at all?
No.
But
let it breathe. All right, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks for the time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe. I think we might have sarcastically said, you said instead of 3, maybe you'd go down to 2 Heisman trophies because we're not going to put him in the Ron Paulus category.
I know what he means. I'm talking about Dylan. He is going to be, he's the front door to the Nebraska football program, but my expectations in his freshman year probably are a lot lower than yours and yours. I expect him to be good. They're able to do more things with the car, but I don't have through the roof Trevor Lawrence type performances. I have just do not be the quarterback that is good enough to get you beat. Just get rid of that label, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, we can.
All I'm asking.
We can, and that's fair. I've let myself go higher. And it's probably not the
It's an
smartest
Oasis
way.
song, so I understand why.
Nice.
Where
Tie
were
it
you
back for the week?
when we were getting high?
Probably with
there
you.
are things about his game that, with the right type of weapons, and Joe's right. Until we see this, and this is where I do kind of maybe slightly disagree with what he said about tomorrow, is there are things that you can take away with how things function offensively that I think can give you can start to maybe validate some confidence that people might have with this team, even if people want to mention the opponent. Because as you said all week, and this is totally true, and this I think goes to the entire season when it comes to those teams that we talked about, just being able to beat those teams that we would consider to be winnable games. Doing that it's more about what you're doing and not necessarily the opponent. It's how you function. If you don't want to say mistake-free, like Joe said, maybe not mistake-free, I would say sound. You want to play sound football. But I think there are things Dylan possesses to where there are going to be moments, maybe it's not always consistently or stacked on top of one another. There are going to be moments that he wows you, and you're just going to say, damn, that is different. And there are going to be performances that I'm confident that you're going to be like, damn, that was not just good, that was great. I have no problem allowing myself to put that expectation on him because I go back to this all the time. He's just built different.
He is. Mike Schaefer's got a thought or two. Mike Schaefer's a Niner. He's a 9 guy.
Get you a Niner.
He's been a 9 guy for a while. People have been singing the tunes for many, many months. Now tomorrow it is to see it in person. Go to the concert. We don't have to just buy a ticket. Now you can go to the concert and see if they're, if what they're singing is pretty good. But I've told you from day one, he's different. He's different. I wanted Rule to go, guys, we finally got one. We finally got one.
He opens up the press conference. You guys!
All right. Mike Schaefer, Matt Virgil on the last hour of football Fiesta on a Friday ahead of Nebraska and UTEP in the first full weekend going into the holiday on 1620 The Zone. All right, so the question I asked Joe last weekend, Dylan Raiola and Jamal Banks were hanging out with Bud Crawford. So over at the gym, they've got a Dylan Raiola jersey. And Bud in his house will have a Dylan Raiola frame jersey. Celebrities that could be on the sidelines.
Yep.
To be fair, at any Nebraska game, but maybe they want to go to a night game against Colorado. Bud Crawford would be a guy that would he definitely fit the bill as a celebrity for next Saturday night.
And as I want to continue to drive home the intimidation factor for a night game at Memorial Stadium.
Make Memorial night games matter.
Yes, and make it scurry. Very, very scary.
Against the all bling, no bang daddy ballers.
You need this is I think you were the first to bring this up, but I think everybody would agree this is a must. I don't even think it's up for debate. It's probably already in the works. It's probably been planned ahead of the Warren Sapp highlights. That needs to happen too. So I think you do have some members of the pipeline that are also very now this is not something that necessarily the Colorado players will know, but you get a little bit of that just to play a little of the mind game there with old Warren Sapp. But also, if you have Bud Crawford, the champ, on your sideline, come on.
Now, Bud is one of those guys.
What do you got, Colorado?
So Bud in person, if you don't know him, I mean, Bud's not a very big guy.
Yeah.
You'd be like, just a regular guy. He's a big Husker fan. But he needs to show up with his belts.
Yeah,
that's what he should do.
The belts.
Yeah. Maybe they need to start a tradition. Maybe they have to have a celebrity at the Nebraska football game bang the drum.
Ooh.
Get us a drum. Just get us a drum, and we'll get you a celebrity.
We got to call it something though. What do we call it?
A drum?
Is it the victory drum?
Just a drum.
What, you got something against bells? We can't ring a bell?
No, because whenever I think of bells, I think of hell.
Hell's bells. Why do you keep catering to the 55-year-old fan?
Because the average age in Memorial Stadium is 58.
Oh, that's why.
And AC/DC might be too recent to music for the games.
Okay. I like this list. Zach in the Equitable Bank inbox does have his list of preferred celebs on the sideline. Would be Bud Crawford, Dwayne Wade, Gabrielle Union, Ndamukong Suh, Big Cuzzo, Patrick Mahomes, Bussin' with the Boys Crew, Adam Devine, and Eric Crouch. And he said, I'm guessing we could also get Willis McGahee. You would think.
Come and watch his son.
He'd just be a regular
he's just
fan.
coming as dad. He's not
right. He's not there as a prop.
He wouldn't be as like, hey, why is there a random Miami Hurricane on the sideline?
Well, you sometimes get that with Colorado too.
Wouldn't surprise me if Sue was here next week.
Why is Stephen A. Smith on the sideline with Deion?
It could be a lot of celebrities here next Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Could be less if they don't take care of business tomorrow.
Yep.
I had to be fair there.
Yep, there it is. UTEP.
All right, 901. Schaefer comes next. Here we go. Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7 joins us. Is that a Niner in there? All right, you have been pretty consistent for a while that you think this team is going to come through in ways that we've not seen around here for a while. Has there been anything that has even added to your belief since we last discussed?
Added to my belief.
Added to your belief.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I basically was sort of pretty staunchly 8-4 most of the spring into the summer. Then I was looking at the schedule, and I had a hard time deciding where the fourth loss would be. So that's how I ended up at 9-3. So I think I'm pretty content at 9-3 at this point. We will see if Nebraska can actually pull that off, but I think they have the talent to do it. It's whether they can stay out of their own way.
All right, so Schaefer, with that in mind, with 9 wins, where they make the biggest jump this season, in your opinion, that gets them to 9? And this is maybe a two-parter. So what do they do to get there? What is the biggest improvement that gets them there more than anything else? And do you feel that 9 is the ceiling?
No, I don't think it's the ceiling. I think they have the ability to win double-digit games this year in the regular season. I just think that they're ultimately it's too much to ask too soon for them to actually, for me to actually predict that. Now, maybe, if they're rolling in November, maybe they aren't dropping that game to USC. I mean, that's kind of the one where I look at, and I think I wouldn't be shocked if Nebraska could go into the Coliseum, control the line of scrimmage, and give Lincoln Riley's boys everything they can handle. That wouldn't surprise me, but they have to be able to do that. And so right now, I'd have USC winning that. Now, going back to the first part of your question, I mean, this is like the most obvious answer ever, but it's a passing game. I mean, I think Nebraska will run well enough. I don't think they have a running back that I'm super enamored with, but maybe somebody emerges this year. And I think they'll be able to run the ball fine. But they're going to be able to throw the ball in such a way that I think is going to challenge a lot of defenses. I mean, I don't think they're just going to be Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn out there like week one. Mm-hmm. But I think Dylan Raiola has the ability to, manipulate defenders with his eyes and with his arm. I think he has great touch passes. We talked to our analysts at 24/7, and they say that he has maybe one of the best deep balls to come out of high school in a long time. And you pair that up with what I think to be the best group of pass catchers Nebraska's had in years. And, I think Jamal Banks can be a steady over-the-middle guy. I think Isaiah Nair has game-breaking potential. You've heard me talk about Jalen Lloyd as someone I think has the upside as an all-conference receiver by the time he leaves Nebraska. Certainly, we know what Malachi Coleman's potential holds. Ja'Cory Barney is an exciting player. I think Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda can be someone that can help out with Nebraska. I haven't even mentioned tight end, where Thomas Fedoni could be the biggest breakout that they have on offense this year. And it wouldn't surprise anyone because he has that level of potential. Nebraska has athletes that they simply did not have last year on offense. I mean, when we do all of this, why can they get better? Why are they going to win games? They're going to score more points. I mean, go back to November. You had your third-string quarterback, your fourth-string running back, wide receivers 4, 5, 6, and an injured Billy Kemp. Yeah. That's what you went into every one of those games with. This is not last year's offense. It's okay to tell yourself that they struggled in November, but most of those players aren't going to be on the field when they take the field against UTEP. Like, it's just we don't have to pretend like it's just an extension of last year's offense. It's going to be entirely different, and I think it's going to be better. And they might have some growing pains early, but they have a runway schedule this year that allows them to sort of be able to work through some of those things.
Those names you rattle off, it's rare. They do have a wealth of weapons, and some of those are young guys. And I don't know how you feel about the importance of the eye test in game number 1, but there's going to be some young guys that are true freshmen that are going to play. You can only pick one of true freshmen in 2024. Who excites you the most on opening day that still will be getting you excited on Black Friday in Iowa City?
I'm assuming that we're just taking Dylan Raiola out of the
conversation. He's a given. He's a little bit older with the mindset, so I don't include him anymore.
Yes. He's been groomed for this situation since he was 12, so he doesn't count. I get it.
For me, he was bred for football glory.
Right. For me, it's got to be Ja'Cory Barney. I mean, that's a guy that I have been talking about since the moment that Garrett McGuire basically pulled one over on Miami in July of last year. I mean, that was such a huge recruiting. When I remember texting Gary after that was all going down and basically just like, Nebraska absolutely stole one here. And I really believe that with Ja'Cory Barney. I think he has so much upside. And I think he's one of those exciting gadget guys that, you know, you kind of let yourself think about what DeMornay Pearson-El was when he was at his best as a kick returner, as, you know, a weapon on offense, as a guy that you could get the ball to and let him work in space. I think Ja'Cory Barney has significantly more upside than DeMornay Pearson-El, but we remember how exciting he was as a freshman. That's sort of what I'm expecting here. And the other thing about Barney is it's a guy that played defensive back, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, flanker. I mean, he punt returner. He did all sorts of things. Now he gets to largely focus on being a wide receiver. I think that helps. I think when, you know, same with Carter Nelson. And I'm not choosing him as my answer here, but sometimes when you get to narrow the focus, that's where you really get to see some of these guys explode. When you're the do-everything athlete in high school, you kind of have to have your, you know, mind in all these different places. When you come to college and you get to lock in on a position, sometimes that can be really, really helpful.
Oh, and I will ask you this on another guy that I think if Gary asks a similar question to anybody else, maybe you would have Vincent Shavers in that answer as well. Let me ask you this. If it's not Vincent Shavers, is it because that spot has been so solidified and locked down, or do you think there's still a lot of growth for Vincent Shavers that'll still be a process throughout this season?
I think it's partially that, but wide receiver is no less deep or busy.
That's true.
So it's not like Ja'Cory Barney is going to get more opportunity at wide receiver than Vincent Shavers might at linebacker. I mean, some of it, if we're honest, is just it's a bias in that I believed in Ja'Cory Barney for a long time. I'm just not going to stop here on the eve of the season. So, but everything I heard about Vincent Shavers is that he arrived in January and just kind of hit the ground running. And again, similar to Ja'Cory Barney, from the same area of the country, from the same program of Miami, it really feels like they stole one. Now, I think there was maybe some academic questions with Vincent Shavers at Miami that was not an issue at Nebraska, but they also may have just moved on from him. And their loss is a big, big game for Nebraska.
Running back. Everybody's going, will one emerge? Does it, at the end of the day, if you're on the other side of the table and you're in charge of Nebraska football, does it matter if one running back emerges as long as you have four healthy guys?
I don't, I go back and forth on this all the time. My personal preference is to have the guy, like the person that you feel good about, the person that when it's the fourth quarter, you just want to feed him and let him go to work. That would be my ideal situation here, but I don't think Nebraska has that. So I think as long as you have these four guys, what ultimately matters is that each week you can find one or two of them that is able to take advantage of their opportunity. Now, the problem with that is you're never going to know going in and week out which guy, maybe it's the Dante Dowdell week, but he's not going to get as many carries as Gabe Ervin, who struggles. So it's part of the difficulty of when you don't have a solidified running back is you have to play the guessing game of the hot hand. And frankly, and others might disagree, it's not like E.J. Barthel wowed me last year when he had his rotation and when they made their decisions of when Anthony Grant was going to get the ball, when Emmett Johnson was going to get the ball. And if I'm also being honest, and it's not like this show hasn't heard me rant about this before, Nebraska sucked at rotating their running backs for a decade now. So part of why I want someone to emerge is it gets really tiring watching a guy have like a 12-yard carry on one possession and then not see the ball again for another, 15 plays when we're talking about, Cedric Mills and occasionally last year, Emmett Johnson. So I would prefer, obviously, if someone emerges. I just don't think that's going to happen. And playing the hot hand, can work in your favor, but you got to really be able to intuitively know what's happening.
Yeah, okay, and that's interesting because listening to Matt Rule talk about the situations that you would see each guy in because I would be with you, I think the conventional wisdom would say if you can lather a guy up and all of a sudden he starts getting into a rhythm and you ride that, proverbial hot hand, that's all the better. But if you get to a situation throughout the season that those roles are clearly identified and they're effective, would that be a situation where you don't really hinder the offense, where as long as the again, going back to the rhythm of the offense, it's not impacted because exactly in each down and distance and situation which guy's coming in and they've established that?
Yeah, and I think what you're really talking about there is that the offensive line establishes it.
Right.
It really doesn't matter which one has the ball.
Yes.
I mean, so that's the scenario that's the best, where we don't even have to talk about a guy emerging because it doesn't matter which one gets the carry because the offensive line is largely doing their job. But yeah, I mean, I think there's solidified roles for him. I think by the end of the year, Ramir Johnson's ultimately going to be the guy in critical situations who's going to be on the field because he's the best pass protector. He's probably the best pass catcher out of the backfield. I think this is going to be a passing offense in a lot of ways. And then he's had the best career out of any of these guys too. I mean, his 2021, he was Nebraska's best offensive player at times on the field against Michigan in a really, really big game. And that guy is still, I think, there. And I think that they can find a way to utilize him. So if I had to bet on any of these four to sort of be the guy by November, I think it's Ramir Johnson.
Hey, could there be a case to be made that we still I don't want to say estimate, undervalue, I'm not sure exactly what the right word is, but when it comes to Tony White, because every time I hear him talk, Schaefer, I'm like, okay, that guy's going to be running a program. There's going to be an athletic director and a fan base that are going to be very happy to have him. But I'm not ready for him to go yet because I don't think he's got one foot out the door. But man, hearing him talk about his defense and what they want to do and what they need to do and they have to do compared to last year, I think, gosh, Nebraska got very fortunate to have that guy at DC. Am I vibing here with the impression, or are you Tony White till I die?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to make a listing of the best things that happened in the offseason, Tony White staying at Nebraska would be number 2 right behind Dylan Raiola. I don't know that there's another thing that's been more valuable for the outlook of the 2024 season. And, kind of like the Cleveland Guardians owner would say with Francisco Lindor when there was extension talks that never actually happened, just enjoy him. Enjoy him, because you probably don't know how many years you're really going to have that defensive coordinator calling things at Nebraska. But I think he's a special guy. I think he's a future head coach. I think Nebraska has several future head coaches on this coaching staff right now. But Tony White's ability to connect with his players and the way they play for him is part of why Nebraska could have a special year this year.
Yeah, I agree. Schaefer, it's finally here. We appreciate it. Great stuff. Enjoyed Josh joining you guys on the Hypecast. I look forward to next week, and we'll see you tomorrow, my man.
All right, sounds good. It's football season. Let's
Finally.
get back in the glow of it.
Finally. Thanks, Schaefer. All right, about Tony White. So his first year at Syracuse. So this will be the first time that he's been now in second year to DC because he was at Syracuse for 3 years. He went from 112 in the COVID year. So maybe you throw that out. If you're wondering if they got better or they stayed the same, they were 18th in total defense, and then they were 21st. So you could get better by a shade or two or stay the same. There's not going to be regression. I don't know. I went back and listened to him when he talked the other day. Yeah, an athletic director is going to make a very wise choice when Tony decides that that's the program that I want to pursue. Yeah. I just think he's pushed the right buttons, man. They've got some guys. They got some good coaches on that side of the ball. They've developed, and that's why I continue to lean on. And this is a hill I'll die on in 24. They will sink or swim by the defense, even if they are the same. And I don't expect them to be the same. I expect them to be better in some certain areas. I expect sacks to go up, takeaways to go up, and I expect them to be better in November than they were last year.
That's the hope, and I think there's a lot of reason to think that could be the case as far as getting better too. And I go back to when I listened to him this week, but more than anything in the offseason this might have been brought up last year when we started to see this defense stay consistent. And whether we're talking about tackle, how they are as a group that tackles very well and doing a lot of little things right, there is that understanding of the defense and the concepts in such a short amount of time that I still don't know if we have as good of appreciation for that as we should have as it was happening. And it's just that chain of command that I think you continue to see. And then this is the one part, and I was talking about this yesterday with a buddy, of you lose a member of your coaching staff that was extremely important from both a recruiting and on-field teaching standpoint, and you don't miss a beat because of the way that you handle those things. And I know some people are like, well, it's a Matt Rule decision. And it is, as far as how you pivot and navigate through things like that. But also Tony White's ability to bring someone up to speed or be able to coexist with people, because everybody keeps, I know we know, but you would think that the way that they're in tune, that Tony White's always been a Matt Rule guy. So it's that chain of command that always impresses me more than anything of what he wants to see done, what those coordinators and position coaches, I should say, are the ones that also are aligned, are in sync with the defensive coordinator, but then how that message is relayed to all of you, having the upperclassmen, but even the younger guys. That to me is more impressive of how quickly the younger guys pick up on that. That to me, yes, you have to be talented when you come in. You have to have a football IQ to be able to absorb that. But I think that teaching and putting it in a way that guys are going to be able to pick up for it quickly, that way you get more guys in the mix, more guys in rotation that could impact earlier in their career, is huge. And I think that's why it's very attractive to want to play for this defense and for that man.
By a program tomorrow, they're going to play a lot of guys on defense.
I would think that
do they still sell programs?
Yes, they do. Nebraska is still one of the rare places that they do. What's his name? Now it's gray hair, feathered hair, wears a jersey, is always outside of the West Stadium selling programs out of his shopping cart.
Nice.
I think his name's Randy. This will be his 54th season, I beve, of selling programs. So yeah, they still sell programs. Yeah, they still sell programs.
Hope I see him tomorrow.
He's the guy that's one of the most recognizable. He's not a like a teenager.
What are they going for now? Do we know?
They still $5.
Oh, that's a great deal.
Because I know everybody now that it's always on the app. You get to digitally upload the roster on the app.
I've got a program to every Nebraska football game since 1994, except for 4 games.
That's awesome.
Can you name the 4 games?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
They are in the years that I was not living here, so I've had to try and acquire them or go to garage sales or have Mike Babcock help me out.
There's a good man out there.
Bill Callahan games in there.
But I'm sure those days are becoming few and far between, that finally the football program will go away.
Yeah.
And it'll just be on your phone.
Yeah, it's on,
or like they do for basketball. Like
tickets.
Creighton still does a basketball program, right? It's a thick program. It's got a ton of ads in there.
Yes.
But they still do a program.
Right.
Like in Lincoln and in Omaha, it's like a roster sheet.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the Nebraska football program still exists. I think it's still $5. I could be wrong.
I'll buy one tomorrow.
I haven't purchased one because I get one. So I'll check tomorrow.
Yeah,
game
I
day
can
one.
afford $5.
Guys, his name's not Randy. I'm going to get his name before the show's over. Matt Verzal is going to join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, before we get to Matt here, his name is Scott. So you'll see him on the west side of the stadium. Since it'll be warm tomorrow, he usually likes to have the guns out. This will be his 49th year of selling programs outside of Memorial Stadium. We welcome in a man that has been to more than 49 years around the sun. Matt Verzal joins us now. Good morning.
Yeah, you didn't even come to the party, so that was nice.
Yes, I did.
Whoa.
Where were you?
I was there I was like one of the first hours. I was like in and out. Ask Kellyanne.
Yeah, seems sketchy.
Well, you're a busy guy. When you turn 100, we'll do it again.
Did you bring anything?
No, you didn't.
Actually, I already got told we're doing 51 because that's on a Saturday. So,
oh yes. All right, let's don't beat around the bush here. I want your honest feelings on this season. The 2024 season in Lincoln will be what?
Moving. Well, how should I phrase that? It will be the continued formation of the new foundation.
Oh, okay.
Like that.
I think there'll be a lot of positives in it and a lot of things that are just building blocks that we'll hopefully be able to look back in a while and be like, hey, do you remember when we were here and we got to our first bowl game for the first time in 8 years and what that took? And it's hard, man. Old habits die hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that can go right and a lot of things that can go wrong. And it's literally going to be a week by week observation. It's really how I've kind of just looked at it.
I know you're someone who wants to see it before you really get into it, but with the old habits die hard part of it, now that's a great way of putting it. Is there an area from a confidence standpoint that you have that you think this habit you'll see less of in 24?
If I see the line of scrimmage move 2 yards toward the opponent, be that on offense or defense, then you're moving well ahead of where you have been in the past. If the back isn't having to make a move in the backfield to avoid a tackler, that's a huge thing. And if the linebackers don't have guys in there, don't have their own players in their lap when they're trying to make their reads, then I think it goes really well for Nebraska.
So this is a quick observation. What you just said, there are if we had to poll everybody and they're like, are you a 9? Are you an 8? You are a 7. There are a lot of former players that are 7. So am I okay to say I attribute that to something that you said that I'm right there with you, is that old habits die hard and sometimes are hard to break away from?
Yep. I mean, I think Vegas is spot on. I mean, Vegas has it at 7.5 because I can get you to 7 real easy. I can also get you to 8 or 9. And it's going to be an exercise in this. Like, I thought when Coach Rule stopped practice, when they had the fans watching, it was brilliant because he knows how big the stage is going to be through the season, right? If they do gain momentum and you'll see the power of positivity or the power of your mind, like, hey, we are good. We can do this. We can win these games, blah, 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 blah. But when you get into a team, we'll just use Colorado, for example, that's going to talk and going to yip at you. And if you revert back to what you think is best to do instead of what you were taught or trained to do, you're going to fail. But when you get into those crucial situations and you defer back to what you taught and what you were trained, and he straight up called out them old dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys ran one series and you went and sat down. Like, what is that about? That's a reprogramming of the brain. Like, he's trying to reprogram their brains. Like, you can't continue to do the stupid things you used to do and hope we win. You have to do what you're taught to do when the pressure hits.
So I think you're answering my next question just with that response, or at least citing an example. And the way you put it as the continued formation of the foundation, in your opinion, what would be the crux of that? If that foundation is continuing to form throughout the season, what is the most key element? What is at the crux of that process?
Crux of it meaning how it goes poorly?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. How that formation continues to develop, how it continues to form.
When you watch a team play and you realize that they play for the greater good. When you have, and I don't think Nebraska does. Okay, so I'm in no way saying they have these players. I think they're all very selfless players.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have someone that wants to be selfish and air quote go get mine, then it won't work. Football is a game of life. Okay, the sooner you realize that everybody around you that you're associated with, you need them to be on the same page for you all to be successful, the quicker you will become successful. We are only, and I tell the 14-year-olds that we hire to wash dishes when we get there, you are the most important person on this team. If you do your job poorly, it just spirals back down. My little gals that work the counter, I said, you are one of the most important people on this team, because if you get this order wrong, watch this thing spiral out of control. So that translates into football, because the backup guy is going to think, well, I'm not that useful. I'm going to do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way. You have to go out and do what you're taught to do and do what you're expected to do. Because if you don't do that, nobody gets better.
Yeah.
So when everybody's doing everything that they're taught and explained to do, you can really get good quickly. But if you don't do your job and you are selfish, it isn't going to work.
Hey, what's that like when you haven't, but all of a sudden you do, when people expect you to win? How do you make that transition? Because no, I'm going to use you as an example, and I'm not calling it out. I'm just talking reality. In your coaching career, you were at a place where they didn't expect you guys to win. And then you went to a place where you're expected to win every game. So how do you make that transition when people expect you to win and you haven't won?
Okay. So in the first instance you talk about were my boys from Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Tarr hired Ryan Twilliger. I think Twig was like 24 or 25. I was 23 or 24. We were out of control, but it was they had won 10 games in 10 years, and they had a 7-win, 8-man season in that span. So everything else is a 0 or a 1. Okay. It was such a foreign concept to me to walk out onto a field and the boys didn't think they were going to win. They said, "Oh, we're playing them. We're going to lose." And I was like, "Oh, no. No. There's a new sheriff in town, and he's wearing blue and white, and we ain't about that life. We're going to start handling some business." When we taught them two things I took out of that. When we taught them that winning was the expectation, the work led to the expectation. Do the work, you will meet the expectation. Okay? That was great. And they started to, I think they've been in the playoffs every year since 99 when we got there. But then to see the absolute hatred from other coaching staffs because the whipping boy had the whip, right? They were pissed. And dudes wanted to fight, and I was young, and I was like, yeah, I am the only 8-county car in that parking lot. I am easy, fine. You bet. I got on a bus once because a team walked over our fence, and they broke it. And I said, well, I walked in the locker room and said, "Hey, boys, good job. I'm going to be on their bus because somebody's fixing our fence." So, yeah. But now going to where that brain is already programmed that way, and they know that's the expectation, it's also awesome because guess what? Everybody hates you. Everybody. And it is fantastic. Kenny Fisher told us if you can get opponents to boo you, there's no better feeling in the world because you've got a human being to the point where they cannot utter words.
Yep.
All they can do is make noises. So it's all what your brain is the most powerful thing in the universe. And if you just tell your brain, "I'm going to work, and then we're going to go reap the benefits of it," that's what it's all mental, right? The game's 80% mental, 40% physical. I mean, it's just you have to get those things done. You have to do the work, and then your brain will just go execute.
All right, and This is interesting, and I know we're putting the cart before the horse on this one, but if everything goes well, where Nebraska is able to look back at this season come November and say it was a success, sustaining that, because kind of what you just mentioned right there of walking into a program where that is the standard, that is the expectation, is no matter who you're playing, no matter what your roster looks like, there is a winning DNA in there. That next step for Nebraska, if they are to accomplish that and sustain to make that next jump, in your opinion, what would be the most important part of that aspect of whether we're talking culture? I know there's obviously recruiting and talent that comes with the roster, but as far as just the winning culture, trying to sustain that.
That if you go in and you talk to any person in that facility, okay, any one singular person, and say, what's our goal here? And when they all say the same goal, you know you have every member pulling the same rope, the same direction. They're pulling their rope the same direction, right? Where organizations go bad, and I've been a part of ones that are bad. I coached at one school for 1 year, and we got done, and I had told the head coach, I'm like, if you let that kid, because we had a kid that quit twice, he kept letting him back on. If you let him back on the team one more time, I said, I'm already pissed. I said, but you let him on one more time, I'm done. And so kid came back for the third time. I'm not mad at the kid. He knew the system. He knew he could win. He won. But after the season got over, walked into his office and was like, hey, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate, the opportunity. I wish you all the best, but I'm not coming back. And he was just baffled, right? But you had different people with different directions they wanted to pull the rope. There was no leader. You have an adult leading the program now who says, you are going to get on board or you are going to get gone. If you think you're going to be slick and do something off the field that's going to be detrimental to the program, I'll have your papers waiting for you in the morning.
Hey,
and I'll have people coming in here to take your job.
Mr. Doctor, thank you very much. This was good. Enjoy the start of the season. Have a great holiday weekend.
Do the same, boys.
All right, that's Matt Versall, Husker, who next week we'll talk about, because I think it is in the works to have to honor the 94 team at the game next week, which he, of course, was part of. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Look how we're going to end the week.
Positivity.
As we should.
Positive.
We're back.
Positive Phil is on hold. Plus, we'll give some final thoughts ahead of what's going to happen in Lincoln tomorrow. Two quick things here. Unfortunately, earmuffs Happer. Vinny Pasquantino was out 6 to 8 weeks. Broken thumb. Last night, the Royals, they some injuries. They got beat by Houston in the opening game of that series.
Okay. I don't feel so
Brady
bad.
Singer was dealing. They were behind 2-0. The Royals took the lead, and then an error in the 8th inning opened up the floodgates, and the Astros ended up winning that game. But Vinny is out 6 to 8 weeks as we begin the last month of the regular season. And also, the line is out for Nebraska-Colorado. It is 7 in favor of Colorado over the all-bling, no-bang Daddy Ballers.
You saying jump all over that or wait?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just giving you the information. I'm giving you facts. You do what you want to do.
Indeed.
Yep. All right. We'll take a quick break. Come back. We'll put a wrap on this Football Friday Fiesta on 1620 The Zone. Wow, this is clever. I was just looking on the Colorado Buffalo Twitter account, @CUBuffs.
Yeah.
They tweeted this out after the game last night. We found another difference. So they were responding to a tweet from the North Dakota State football account about a week ago, what the difference between a buffalo and a bison is. And Colorado responded with, we found another difference, 0-1 bison, 1-0 buffalo.
Yeah, because I saw yesterday.
That was clever.
The 16 national championships that North Dakota State threw out there. You knew if you didn't come out on top, you were probably going to get something back. So
that's good. That's good. Colorado chirping at an FCS program.
Yeah.
Just keep building it up.
Hey, I imagine that in both fan bases in Colorado and Nebraska, there are so many bookmarks that have been saved. I mean, the game ends on Saturday night. Some might be going to their favorite watering hole. I will probably go into social media just to see things that have been saved and things that will be said.
Why not do both?
Well, I'm going down to the Deion Sanders postgame press conference. All right. It's been a long offseason. Now we are on the cusp of one of the more anticipated seasons. So this seems like a good time to welcome in Positive Phil. Hi, Phil.
What's up? You know how they say absence makes the heart grow fonder? You know, I'm feeling the love. You know, I miss you guys. How are ya?
Is your heart full this morning, Phil?
It is. But I got to tell you, so I'm actually the artist formerly known as Positive Phil. My podcast comes out in September, and there's another Positive Phil. So I had to do a name change. And when I was a pro wrestler, there's a pro wrestler named the Road Dog. And my nickname for him was Cool Dude Phil. So I'm Cool Dude Phil now. That's my handle now. So welcome. Hello world.
Hi, Cool Dude
Phil in the house, right?
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
He would every time he'd see me, he'd say, "What up, CDP?" And so when I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go with that. That's pretty cool. So I'm headed to the most wonderful small town in Nebraska, Imperial, where I grew up.
I've been
I'm
there.
going to go watch my CCHS Longhorns play Yuma, Colorado tonight.
Oh, all right.
Hopefully we can put a Longhorn-style whooping down on them.
So how you feeling about
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we got you. How you feeling about the next 24 hours?
So my thoughts on Nebraska, I'm feeling 35-10.
Okay.
That's just kind of what's floating around in my head. Hopefully we can get a good start and Dylan can make a few nice passes and they can set him up so that he gets comfortable and confident. And I think if that happens, we can get the run game going and I think we know the defense will be fine. So I'm thinking 35-10. We'll see how that shakes out. What do you guys think? I haven't been listening to you. Sorry, I've been busy this morning. So give me your take.
I've been avoiding stuff that's on the road in Chase County. I said earlier in the week 42-10.
42-10? Yeah,
yes.
We're pretty similar.
Yeah,
we're pretty similar.
I had 30 or what? Oh, I had 34-10. I think is what mine was.
We're all in the same boat. Hopefully that manifests for us. But you know, I'm for me on the season for the big picture. I think we're an 8 or 9 win team. To be honest with you, I think the culture has successfully switched in our favor. I think we've got the right people in place and we've got talent, and so I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be dancing in a decent bowl with 8 or 9 wins and onward and upward.
I hope so too. I'd like to wear shorts in late December.
You will anyway.
Yeah, for real, right?
Yeah.
Been a while. So hey, you guys have a wonderful holiday weekend, and good to talk to you again, guys.
Hey, good to talk to you, Phil. Have fun at the high school game tonight.
All right, thanks, man.
All right,
bye, Phil. Cool dude, Phil.
Could have been Cool Hand, Phil.
I was trying to hear what you were saying. Did you say none of that is true?
Has he told us before that he used to be a professional wrestler?
Yeah, there's a professional wrestler, podcast. There's a lot of stuff going on in Phil's world that the wrestling part, I almost needed. Wait, hold on, because I thought maybe this was something that was already well known before I got here.
He'd give us his name. No,
I've seen evidence. He's telling the truth.
Never talked to Phil.
So I should have went with my instinct. Like, wait, you're burying the lead. What? You were a former pro wrestler?
Phil told me that he'd met me before in person. I'm like, I was like, well, where?
Did you introduce yourself as?
And he mentioned a place. I'm like, I don't think I've been there.
So
he's a professional. He's a former professional wrestler,
aren't we all?
And a podcaster.
Yeah, we just learned
nice
a lot
little
about
combo, and an extremely nice guy that likes 1620 The Zone and
loves our show.
Is from way out in that part of Nebraska.
Yeah,
you're just west of Gretna.
Exactly.
Just a stone throw.
Just east of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm 42-10. I'm right now 7-5. Verz and I are on the same page, and I think I'm starting to think like a former player. Again, there are a lot of former players that are under the mindset that there is progress. They are much better. They have a deeper bench and more frontline guys emerging. But there are certain things that all of a sudden you don't just go, oh, because of the schedule, you've won 7 football games.
Yeah.
And so I get their lens that they look through things that things have to change. And I believe the same thing, because when you are expected to win, what does that do? And I've said from the jump that I think, and I don't even want to talk about the schedule or who may or may not be here next year, but I think this year sets up next year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think this is not year 2 of Rule, which I'd like to be retired, that it's more like a year 3, then do what you will with that. There's a hell of a jump, but there's a good vibe, and I there's an importance to me of the eye test tomorrow, that it looks like everything that has been talked about, that we've seen little glimpses of, is not manufactured. It's absolutely for real, and it's a good start for where you have to go, and they still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I think your eyeballs tell you how that looks tomorrow. I weren't sure if we were going to do the bold predictions, but just numbers that I had put down. I don't necessarily need these things to happen for me to say, hey, that looks good, because I do think there is something as very simple as the eyeball test of watching how things play out both offensively, defensively, and special teams, that you don't even necessarily need a stat sheet to look at that. And I think that's more importantly what tomorrow is about, is whether they cover or not, you look the part. And I agree, good teams win, great teams cover, but do we need this to be a great team tomorrow? No. But do you need to see something that is very, very different from, let's say, again, I'll just bring it up because the last time Nebraska won a season in a home opener was against South Alabama in 2019, and that looked rough. You don't want to walk away from that tomorrow saying, well, at least they won. There needs to be substance to it. I think if there is, for everybody who is looking at 7 or 8, even 8 or 9, I think tomorrow is more than just, it's UTEP. No, there needs to be a takeaway of, that looked pretty good, where you can look at everything that you've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 months and say, yeah, you know what? That looked what I hoped it would look like. And that doesn't mean there's not going to be mistakes in it. There's going to be some of that, obviously. But on the whole, way more pros than cons.
41-10. They're going to go 8-4. I'm trying to decide right now. The first touchdown, they're going to go for a deep ball or a good drive, get some good completions, get a little running game going, and then hit one of the tight ends. Maybe Fedoni have a big game tomorrow.
On a mark it down for Monday, Dylan Ryler will throw a touchdown pass that is over 30 yards.
Yes, I agree with that.
Now, it would warm the cockles more, instead of through the air that it ends up like a 65-yard toss, that it's a little 10-yard crossing pattern that gets a house call. But he will mark it down for Monday. He'll throw a touchdown pass of over 30 yards.
I got him throwing for at least 275 and 3 tutties.
Oh,
I thought you said something else for a second.
275 is a big number.
It's a big number. Yeah, I think it happens. And then I also have a guy. This isn't my pick to click necessarily. That would be Malcolm Hartzog. Jaron Bonner will have a touchdown.
All right.
Yeah,
he poised to have a big year. He's finally back at his natural position. He was never a fullback, and he's going to play a little bit. He's had a good camp. And we'll see what happens. That's why they play the games. Friggin' talking season is officially over. Retire it.
Time.
It's time for the season. The next time we talk to you will be on Tuesday. Enjoy the Labor Day weekend, everybody, because you know what happens on Tuesday? Bright and early at 6.
Colorado Week.
May have a thing or two to say when we reconvene. But Nebraska's got to take care of business first. Have a great weekend, everybody. Be safe, be smart, make memories, and, of course, live, laugh, and punt. Enjoy the game. Nick and Connor will have the Big Red Overreaction right after the game is over. Hope to see a lot of you down in Lincoln. Weather's going to be great, and there is nothing like opening day at Memorial Stadium. And then I will print the shirts next week for everybody. I'll give them out on the show of Make Memorial Night Games Matter.
I'll wear that.
Because we'll have them for 3 straight weeks.
Yes, we will.
All right, for Jimmy, for Nick, I'm Gary. Crossover's coming up next. We'll see you on Tuesday.